Welcome to Hand of the Gods. Yes, we're actually here with Kevin Meyer.
I worked with you for how long?
Used to be known as Adonis. I didn't use Adonis when he used to be a caster. Now community manager for Hand of the Gods. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to broadcast these games. The game's come a long way. We're still in closed beta, but obviously we're going to have a big tournament at DreamHack, so this is kind of the preliminary sets to lead to that.
Basically, what we're going to be doing today is seeing two people, actually, one from Europe, one from North America, get a trip to Valencia to take place there in the semi-finals, actually, for a big tournament's going to be happening there.
Yeah, so we're actually going to have an open bracket tournament at Valencia where anyone who attends the event is going to be able to play $7,500 on the line. I mean, we're still in closed beta, which is pretty good.
Sure.
And then we are actually sending two players, like you mentioned, to those semifinals. That's going to be one from Europe and one from North America, and we're going to find out who that is today.
I'm going to start things off over in Europe today. It's going to be Bubbles versus Pot Pie.
Yes.
Great names. Pot Pie is the winning. He went through the winning bracket, and there is a losers bracket in Hand of the Gods for this qualification too.
Yeah, as a card tournament, we're running double elimination. So how this works is this is a best of 3 format. If the player from the winners bracket wins the first set, that's it. It's over. It's done. If they lose, then it's going to be a bracket reset. The player coming from the losers bracket then gets one final set to try and win, or obviously if the other player wins, it's going to be the end of the road.
Well, let's see how this goes on then. Pot Pie versus Bubbles. Pot Pie, the favorite. He was the winner. Bubbles, meanwhile, he's the underdog here. He has to win the first set, best of 3, to get himself going. And if you've not tuned in and seen Hand of the Gods before, it's all a lot like Smite in a lot of ways, with at least the gods. The mythology is still here.
I expect all the people who are just watching the SPL broadcast to recognize a lot of the units, obviously.
I see Nemesis.
You see Nemesis. I mean, even some of
the... I see Zeus and Noir, too. That helps.
Even the non-gods, obviously, were able to borrow a lot from our assets in Smite. That's where this game was, the foundation of this game. We're branching out. We actually have our own unique units coming out in the future. But you're just going to recognize kind of a lot of the traditional gods you are used to seeing, as well as some of the units. We have, some of the buff camps, some of the jungle monsters as well, and like the arena map. So it's visually it's phenomenal, and Smite players are going to recognize it.
So the goal for the game, if you've not recognized this just yet, is those two pylons in the middle. What are they called? They look like
summoning stones.
Summoning stones.
Summoning stones.
Literally, you summon your units around those stones, and you can see it's got a health bar of 25. If that gets to 0, you lose the game.
Yes, that is your life points. The leaders are indicated on the side there. Obviously, Bubbles right now is going to be playing Zeus, and so his deck consists of units and spells from the Greek pantheon, and on the other end you have the Nuwa, who can only use gods and spells from Chinese pantheon, and then there's a neutral set which every leader is able to pull from.
Well, you can see Scylla is in Bubbles' hand right now, and it is, I believe, his turn as it stands for the time being. He's got 4 mana available, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can also see he's got 17 cards still available in his deck. But what I do see is Zeus's pictures in the bottom left. What's that about?
Yeah, so that's going to be your leader ability. Every leader has an ability that costs 2 mana. Zeus's is going to be a +1/+1 to any god you have on the board. So as a whole, the Greek pantheon is really centered around the god you utilize. You can see Nemesis coming in, and they have a lot of direct impact. So Nemesis right there just half the health pool of the other unit, the Imperial Guard on that end, and added it to her own.
So Zeus gives you a buff to one of your characters on the battlefield of +1/+1?
Yes, and you actually just saw that. So the Nemesis came out, stole 2 health from the Imperial Guard, and then he used his leader ability to give it +1/+1. So Nemesis now pretty strong unit out here very early.
Well, Pot Pie not really wasting much time with his turns whatsoever. He's trying to use those archers with the range which comes into play here to ping and get some free damage off to potential units. And that actually kind of coincides with what her ability is.
Yeah, Nuwa here for 2 mana is going to be able to generate a spell card, 0 cost. It's called a Crescent Blade, which does 1 damage to a unit.
Okay.
The archer in the top right-hand corner, his ability actually deals 1 random damage to any enemy once you play a spell. So there's a lot of combo potential inside of the Chinese pantheon. It's really centered around using your spells that you create yourself to have devastating combos with the units that are in that pantheon.
Now, as you can guess, it's a turn-based strategy game for the most part, where you play the cards from your hand to get them onto the battlefield. And there is ranged versus melee too. Yes. Obviously, ranged have advantages, and melee do have some drawbacks overall.
And right here, you're going to see, you haven't seen it just yet, but we have a return damage system in the game. So that's where, yeah, that's Scylla. I'm a monster.
I know that one.
You know that one.
Does it one-shot?
No.
I mean, at 5'4", it looks like it will one-shot the Archer at least.
So what you just saw there from Scylla, as she gets bumped back into the hand, she has a charge ability, and when she kills a unit, she actually gets +3 damage until the end of her next turn. And so what you saw happen there was Bubbles played out the Scylla, used his leader ability to buff it to 2/4, and was able to kill that guard on the bottom and get the buff. So there's a lot of synergistic combos within the Greek Pantheon as well.
And Popeye, as you saw, responded with the Hebo drop, and Hebo knocks you up so high, you go all the way back to your hand.
Back to your hand, yeah.
That's how good Hebo is.
Hebo's a really big tempo stopper, and that's actually what you see a lot from these Chinese Pantheons, is these players will have these cards that really slow down the pace of the game, and then you generate your Crescent Blades with your leader abilities, and then you kind of hold out till late game and put out some pretty devastating combos.
And that's the plan with Noir. So what was your plan with Zeus in this game? Because you talk about tempo, and different decks obviously have different playstyles and different pantheons. Like Zeus's pantheon, for example, that's got a specific playstyle.
Yeah, and so Zeus, like I mentioned before, a lot of his cards in his pantheon are god focused. So the Nemesis, the Scylla, and these have direct impact onto the board. Now, stat wise, for those who are familiar with card games, the stats actually don't match up to their mana cost. Typically, their mana cost is a little bit higher for the stats you have, but they have these really powerful effects, and then you use that leader ability to buff them up. See, that Scylla, once again, comes right out there, kills the Hebo, does not die. You did see, actually, the return damage system in there.
I was going to talk about the return damage.
Yeah, let's break that one down.
When you actually take damage, you can receive damage back from the god you're attacking, all the minions.
Yeah, it's it's a pretty basic system here. You have melee and ranged units. You're either one of the two.
Sure.
Ranged units will always deal return damage. Obviously, they're going to have the ability to fire their bow back or whatever their ranged is. Melee will only deal return damage to units adjacent to them. So there's a big kind of standoff between the ranged and melee units, where ranged are really effective against melee units if you can make sure to not be adjacent to them when you attack them, because you don't take that return damage and are able to keep your units on the board.
So keep your distance as range as much as possible, whereas if you've got melee troops, you really want to try and get them in there, unless they've got some effects that you want to try and hang around in your backline,
there's
like
a few of those. I think we're going to see some of them later, especially in Chinese. They have a lot of those kind of combo units, like I mentioned earlier.
Well, Bubbles on the left-hand side, he is the losers bracket winner. Now he's going to take on Popeye. He needs to win this set, best of 3, up against Popeye to reset the bracket one more time and give him a shot at going to DreamHack. At the moment, his board state isn't terrible. He's got Nemesis on, and I believe he's got himself in a pretty decent position so far.
Yeah, and he's going to take out this White Tiger here. See, the return damage comes out, Nemesis still alive. He has a few options right now. That 2/3 on board, he kind of wants to get rid of it because it is ranged. But
Enyo.
Yeah, and
who's
so
that?
In Enyo, that's Bologna skin.
Oh, it's Bologna.
No, it's actually, it is the Greek version of Bologna.
Okay.
So there's a lot of, that's actually one thing that is really exciting is, you know how there's, a lot of gods that are the same god but in different pantheons.
Sure.
Smite was limited. Well, we kind of said we're going to do this ourselves. So we took Enyo, who is essentially Bologna, but for the Greek pantheon, and put her in. Well,
Guan Yu just came onto the field, and if you don't know what Guan Yu does, you're seeing it right there. The spells that Nuwa's playing from her hand that she can generate with her 2 mana here, Guan Yu's ability is that he'll deal 1 damage to every creature on the battlefield.
And that's a little bit of what we talked about before, where these Chinese Nuwa players will kind of delay the game, generate a lot of Crescent Blades, then play their Guan Yu, and then they have a lot of spells for either
spells are free.
Low mana or 0 mana cost, and then you can just wipe the board effectively.
Now, the war flag you can see on the field there, just in front of Popeye's summoning stone, is actually from Enyo. It's the ability there to be able to summon creatures to the war flag, around the war flag.
So obviously we mentioned at the start of the game that you can only spawn your units from adjacent to your summoning stone, but there's a couple exceptions to that. Enyo is one. Like you mentioned, you place a war flag, it's going to buff any units adjacent to it. You can see right there Nemesis getting +1 damage, and you can also then summon and deploy units from it, which you can already see right now. Bubbles is highlighting, gets the Scylla on board, and I'm expecting him to now buff this Scylla with his leader ability. There it is.
And then go
3
for killing
damage,
Guan Yu.
kill Guan Yu, get a damage bonus.
Unfortunate situation now for Pot Pie then, with Guan Yu being taken off, and now against 3 very damaging enemies on the board. If you look at the amount they've got here, it's 14 damage alone from these 3, and that's before Zeus looks to buff anymore.
It's Zeus, once he gets on board, he is incredibly powerful, right? He has a lot of things that are able to keep buffing his own units.
So if anything, if you're talking about in deck terms, it'd be like a ramp deck. Is that what you're kind of looking for here?
It's very ramp. It also has some control elements with kind of the gods themselves. It's not typical control where you're playing a bunch of spells like Nuwa does to directly deal damage and remove. He has a couple of those, but really it's about making sure your gods are taking control of the board. So Nemesis, like we mentioned earlier, stealing health.
Now,
Scylla comes out, she has charge, she's able to combo people and kill people really quickly. Athena as well is very powerful. We might see her a little bit later.
Well, you can see still Bubbles on the attack again against Hebo, who did try and return 1 unit here, but the buffs keep coming through from Bubbles onto this Scylla.
This is where it gets scary.
Increase the amount of damage. You can see the curses coming out from Pot Pie there. He's not happy about this situation at all.
I think it's a little bit frustrated here. This is actually a pretty good draw. You see Sun Wukong just got played here. Now, Sun Wukong, when he comes into the field, he gets 3 options. Visually, you can't see it right now in Spectator.
Okay.
That'll be fixed next patch.
What do you do?
And right here,
He did Ox.
he chose Ox form. So he has the traditional 3 forms in Smite. Ox form deals 2 damage to all units adjacent. So you saw him just deal 2 damage to Scylla, and then use the Crescent Blade that he had generated this turn to deal the final bit of damage and take a little bit of board control back.
Well, Athena is in Bubbles' hand right now, and Athena can basically spawn into the map anywhere she chooses. And it also deals 2 damage to all enemy units that are around her when she spawns in.
Yeah, so that's the other exception.
OP.
That's the other exception to deploying where you want. Athena probably not going to be used here, though, obviously. You don't really have 2 damage you want to deal to anyone.
Sure.
And instead, I do like this play from Bubbles, you know. This is one thing that's scary about Chinese versus Greek is you saw the Hebo come down earlier, knocking that Nemesis back into the hand. But this Nemesis, she gets her war cry still when she's redeployed and was able to steal away the remaining bit of health.
But I think Pot Pie knew that was going to happen because he did put that Nemesis back at some point, and Sun Wukong's in still a pretty healthy position until Bubbles makes him pay a little bit more, now down to 2 health, which means Nemesis and Sun Wukong will trade out. And I think that's what he's kind of hoping for here.
I think this is actually going to be an Athena play.
Oh, straight after.
Yeah,
nice.
so I really like that. So he plays the Nemesis, steals half the health, and then he used Judgment. That ability does 2 damage to a unit, or 4 if you have 2 gods in play.
What did Ao Kwang just do? He appeared and just did ridiculous damage to Athena.
I turned my head to you. I didn't see, actually.
I saw Ao Kwang appear and then Athena lose all her health.
Okay. Well, the game's going to end here.
That's game over already?
That is game over. Unfortunately, for Pot Pie,
he surrendered.
He got a little bit too far behind on board. We mentioned that Chinese in this game, you know, sometimes like to stall out and get their combos.
Sure.
A lot of that sometimes relies heavily on the Guan Yu. We saw that Guan Yu played. He casted a bunch of spells, was able to clear the board, but unfortunately the Guan Yu died that turn after, and so it wasn't able to kind of take board control like Chinese wants to.
So is Nuwa Nuwa is so revolving around Guan Yu? Is that kind of how it plays here? You need the Guan Yu to really make this deck work?
You don't need the Guan Yu to make the deck work. Guan Yu's just an incredibly powerful legendary that helps you clear board in a really behind. He's kind of a come behind character.
Sure.
The stat line, he's only 2/5 for 6 mana, but it's just combining it with those spells to get the board clear.
Well, he's a best of 3 here right now. Pot Pie's up 1-0 against Bubbles, and if he can find another game out of this best of 3, he will reset the bracket, and then we'll get to go again. I wonder if we'll see any deck changes. Do we see deck changes quite often in this between games?
Well, deck lists are going to be the same. So let me break
down.
down.
I meant between like
you're
Pantheon
fine.
changes.
You're fine. You're fine. Let me break down kind of how this format works. This is a conquest format for those who are familiar with card games.
Conquest?
Yes, I know. It's named the same thing as the main game mode.
Is there Phoenixes? I didn't see no
there is no Phoenixes.
Is there a Titan?
I knew you were going to troll me.
Is there a Fire Giant?
I hate you. There is
a Fire Giant. See, I was saying
Giant.
I was trolling you until I realized you weren't going to realize.
There is Fire Giant. But the conquest format in card games is, and I actually really like this format because, you know, if a certain deck gets too powerful, it can kind of be countered and dealt with.
Sure.
When you win with a Pantheon or a deck in this tournament, you can't use it for the remainder of the set.
Oh, so you got to use a different deck.
So you have to use a different deck. So we
different Pantheon too? Or?
Different Pantheon, yeah. So obviously the decks are centered around the Pantheons.
Okay.
So there is Roman, Greek, Chinese, Norse. I forgot the last one.
You forgot Egypt? maybe?
Egypt, yeah.
Was it
Good one.
Egyptian? There you go.
It's Egyptian.
Well, we're straight into this game already, and Bubbles, obviously, after the last game, has stayed with Noir, but Popeye has now changed his... Sorry, Bubbles has changed, from Zeus to Noir.
Yeah,
That's what I should be saying.
Because Bubbles won that game, he can no longer use his Greek deck in this set, so he's switched, and Popeye very confident in his Noir deck, so going to run that one back.
Yeah, Popeye's hand is at the top of the screen right now as you look at it, and you can see he's got quite a few high-value cards there in his inventory. Meanwhile, it's over to Bubbles.
Yeah, so I don't think we explained that earlier. The hand at the bottom, who we're watching?
That's a very good point. Left-hand side and bottom is going to be Bubbles, and then the top and the right-hand side is going to be Popeye.
Yeah. The easy thing is to remember...
It kind of makes some sense.
How we deal with teams in high-res games is blue is always the good guy, red is always the bad guy.
Well, the blue guy is currently winning against the bad guy right now, and the good guy is Bubbles because we want him to try and reset the bracket here.
If Bubbles is able to take this game, we will go to a second set. Right now, his hand isn't that strong, but he has two really powerful units on board. I actually want to mention the Imperial Guard unit that you see on the right-hand side of the map.
With a big ball on a stick.
Yep. So going back to Noir and kind of synergizing with their units, when you play a spell, the Imperial Guard will get +1 damage, as well as immunity to return damage for that turn. So it's a really powerful effect. Because return damage is so prominent in this game, having units that are going to be able to take out units while still remaining on the board and not taking any damage can really help you push forward and keep units alive.
And what's that little lightning bolt next to him about on the board? Do you see the little lightning bolt there? What's that to do with the little green?
That's the basically saying he has an effect.
Oh, so you can highlight over them and see what the effects are. Same way you can see the little archer symbol next to the archer that just came on to the board. He's got range symbol. That's what that means. He's got a bow and arrow.
There's a bunch of symbols that are, it may take you a little bit when you first get into the game, but they really help indicate what each unit does.
Well, pressure this time from Bubbles again early to the Summoning Stone. 5 damage at this stage isn't bad. We're only 5-6 mana deep, and getting a free 5 damage off into that Summoning Stone causes a couple of issues now for Popeye.
Yeah, Popeye is in a pretty rough state right now because he doesn't have anything on board. There's also an Ao Kuang from Bubbles. Ao Kuang has +1 spell damage. Obviously very powerful with Noir, who's able to generate that Crescent Blade to deal 1 damage. Now they're going to be dealing 2, and then the Imperial Guard as well. When those spells are played, he's going to be immune to return damage, and you're going to see that case right here. So this Crescent Blade going to deal 2 damage, and he got the Archer pick.
This is a brutal position for Popeye to be in now, because when you look at his hand at the moment, he's going to be on 6 mana next turn, but already the Summoning Stone has been weakened quite heavily. Hebo in hand, he could return the Ao Kuang potentially, but can he really do anything more than that? What a guess! I'm good at this game!
You're great at this game.
I'm so good, I guess that was happening.
I mean, at this point, because Hebo is such an anti-tempo card, you really do want to stop any units that are being played right now by Bubbles. This might be lethal with Dragon King.
The Dragon King does what? 3 damage you can see? What else does it do?
So it deals 3 damage to a enemy and then 3 more damage to all units in the same row. Because we have a game board, we actually have a lot of cards that will deal stuff to rows, columns, or areas.
You don't even need the Dragon King at this point with how this is going so far. Bubbles is on a tear already.
I think this is game.
Popeye is in a lot of trouble.
No, this is game. Because what's going to happen here is Dragon King is going to deal 6 damage to the stone, buff both Imperial Guards to 4 damage, and that's going to be it.
Wow, that was very quick.
Popeye doesn't even want to wait for it. He's just like, I'm done. I don't want to see this anymore.
So Bubbles quickly gets the 2-0 in the best of 3, resetting the bracket, and now turns around and looks towards things and goes, well, start again.
That was actually a pretty fast game, too. It really seemed like pretty poor card draw from Popeye. He tried to, again, play that slow style, but the Imperial Guards came out early, and they were able to trade effectively without taking return damage, and then he kind of just fell a little bit too far behind on board.
So we've seen Noir so far, and she's all about spells and trying to generate combinations with her cards as well. And then you've got Zeus, which is all about ramping those cards into big, meaty giants like the Scylla we saw, or even the Ao Kuang to cause this. Not Ao Kuang, the Scylla we saw and the Nemesis.
And the Nemesis, yes.
Yeah. So that worked out well for them so far. We'll see what they can do, though, in the second set. We'll be back in a moment. Just going to give these guys a chance to get themselves organized for the second set. Well, after that quick break, we get to see Popeye versus Bubbles for the second set now. Basically, the first one was a reset, meaning that they're on an even keel, so whoever wins this one actually makes it to DreamHack.
Yeah, losers player reset the bracket here, so the winner of it, going to DreamHack. We are flying them out there, booking their hotels. They're going to be able to enjoy the event, and then also compete in the semifinals on the final day of DreamHack.
So as these guys get themselves into game again, do we expect to see Nuwa versus Zeus again one more time? Is it Nuwa?
I think, right now the two most prominent pantheons are Nuwa and Zeus.
Okay.
The recent patch in the game introduced a lot of new cards for them, so the other pantheons are going to be getting some spicy new cards in the next couple updates, but they've been the ones that got the most love. Ooh.
Well, we get a Zeus versus Zeus matchup potentially here from Popeye and Bubbles in game one. Obviously, first of two wins is going to find the win here overall and get themselves to that DreamHack spot to compete there too. That'll be exciting for them, but more importantly, I just want to see about this game. It's free, right?
Yeah,
as always.
Yeah,
Hire special.
We're a free-to-play studio, so if you already have a Hires account, you can go to handofthegods.com and click the download button if you want to try. We are still in closed beta, but we've been making a lot of progress. I mean, honestly, I joined this project as the community manager at the beginning of the year. It is worlds different.
Hang on a second. I see Thanatos in Bubbles' hand.
Yeah.
Bubbles is on the right-hand side of the screen, on the top of his cards there. What's Thanatos do? I want to know. He's got to just nuke someone, right?
He executes people.
Does he die in the early game for free and then later on might execute someone when he's almost relevant?
No, he's actually a pretty decent 4-drop. So Thanatos has a stat line of 3 damage and 2 health. However, his War Cry ability lets him travel to any unit that has 2 or less health and execute them.
Oh.
Very powerful effect when used properly.
And speaking of that, Scylla's now at 2 health, but Nemesis is on the table, pulled out there defensively from Popeye to answer back some of the damage coming out from Bubbles so far on that Scylla. Only one so far, but he didn't really have many options here, Bubbles, at the start. Clearly, he pulled out Scylla, which isn't the greatest thing to do at this stage.
I actually really liked that play, mostly because
board presence?
This Scylla could become dangerous because of Zeus's ability, being able to keep spamming that and pump her up, and then she gets bonus damage when she makes a kill. Scylla's more used as a counter card, but if you can drop it very early when your opponent has nothing on board, you can ramp her up and become that monstrous god.
Well, we're going to push back a little bit further away. And you see Scylla moving away there. She is ranged, as you can see by the little archer symbol, and it means that she won't take return damage from being right next to the Nemesis.
Yeah, and let me break down a little bit of the range,
movement. Yeah,
the movement. So you can see when you click on a unit, you're able to highlight and see all their movement options. And there's the Thanatos that we mentioned earlier, the execute on the 1 health Scylla. At default, all melee units have a movement range of 3, and all range units have a movement of 2.
Good.
So yeah, so because ranged has that
range.
return damage or lack thereof if they're not adjacent, obviously they can't move as far. It's also important to mention that all movement in this game is not diagonal. It's all up, down, left, right, north, south, east, west.
Fana just killed Fana, and that's exactly how it would be played out. Both had 2 health, and that's what happens. But Scylla's back out once again, and now she's grown to 5-4, at least till the end of the turn.
We went Scylla, Thanatos, Thanatos, Scylla, and now the 5-4
Poseidon.
is a little bit of
I've
trouble.
heard about Poseidon. Supposedly, he spawns Krakens.
He spawns Krakens. If you ever want to have the Kraken on a cooldown every turn, you gotta unlock Poseidon in this game.
And what do you mean? Every turn you can have a Kraken? How?
So, obviously we mentioned the leader abilities earlier. Poseidon actually replaces your leader ability with the Kraken. Now, he's 4 mana with a weak stat line. However, when he comes to the board, your leader ability gets replaced. You can't get the +1/+1 back. However, you can spend 3 mana to get the Kraken, which is going to do damage in a 2x2 area.
And how much damage does that do?
2 damage.
2x2x2. Yep. 2 damage in a 2x2 for 3.
For 3 mana.
Because you'd not have made it 2 to make it simpler. 2 for 2 for 2 for 2.
You know what? Scott Condi's lead designer. You can tweet him and ask him why he didn't do that.
And this is where he's been all this time, recreating Smite in card game universe.
And it's going really well. The project has come such a long way, and the devs have put in a ton of work. We actually have an update coming out early next week. Ideally tomorrow. Maybe Tuesday. We'll see.
What exciting things have we got looking forward to? Because at the moment, the game looks pretty solid.
Yeah, so first of all, obviously, the visuals on the map itself have just been upgraded phenomenally. We're really happy with in-game visuals. We have actually redone the UI and all the menus, so that's a much smoother experience. We're also introducing 2 new game modes, a ranked playlist, as well as the Thunderdome. The Thunderdome Arena. So you're going to draft a random deck of cards where you're going to be selecting choices as it goes.
Cool. So you get a random deck of cards that you have to play against other people.
Yeah. So it's a traditional arena format where you're just drafting cards that are presented to you until you have a full deck, and you go against other players, and you can win card packs and dust in favor.
Now, obviously, both these players do generally. There is a time limit in each of the turns, but they're going to use the whole of that time limit realistically to plan out not just this turn, but potentially future turns, what they want to do next.
That's how card game players work, man.
Sure.
You gotta
think.
There's so many things you have to think about. Not only the turn that's on the board right now, but what cards you have available to play on the next turn.
I'm a play-by-play caster, and I play my card games the same way. Where I'm just like, just say what I see and do what I do.
I mean,
it's very simple.
It is very simple.
Can I play this card? Play it. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I played it anyway.
I mean, there's so much tactical depth in Hand of the Gods just because of the board. Like, that's the big thing, that there's so much more to think about when you have to worry about return damage and movement, how you position. There's body blocking in the game to keep, some units
from
more
getting
powerful.
Range.
Yeah, so you're able to body block, and, basically players have to either stop that body block or they have to try and find another way to get to your units in the back line.
And you talk about a tactical decision. Pot Pie now has to deal with what Bubbles dropped in Enyo on that war flag in the back lines. Now there's an opportunity for Bubbles to be able to bring units out to that flag, not only at his base, but same time, Pot Pie has now got great control around the Summoning Stone.
Yeah, so, I mean, Bubbles is going to be able to, push units into that back line, but he really has to worry about the 4-8 Athena and the 4-3 Scylla on his own right now. They're pretty scary at the moment.
But in hand at the moment, checking Bubbles' hand, he's not really got too much that could help him out here. Divine Intervention will give him a couple of gods to his hand, I believe.
So you're going to add 2 gods to your hand again, god focused, so it's going to be a quick and easy draw if you want.
He can always pull out a Kraken, but I don't think the Kraken will do enough with Poseidon just yet either.
No, because he's going to have to play Poseidon and then spend 3 more mana. That's his whole turn. It only does 2 damage as well, so he's not going to be able to kill anything on board. His best bet here might actually be playing the Blade Master, which is right to the left of Divine Intervention.
The 7 mana cost one.
The 7 mana cost. It has charge. It is a 4/7 as well, and it also heals your Summoning Stone for 3. So that's going to be able to kill Scylla. It also has enough health pool that it won't be killed by return damage.
It's not a bad call then. Will we see the Blade Master is the real question? I think Bubbles probably will do that, but then I think the next question is what his plan is going to be after the fact. Because it would cost all his mana here to use that Blade Master.
I think he has to at this point because, he
actually
chooses not to.
So he's pulled out the Archer instead, and what does this Archer do?
This is a Decrepit Bowman, so you can see the symbol to the left of his Archer symbol.
Does that mean he's decrepit?
He has an Afterlife effect. So Afterlife happens when the unit dies, and so he's going to be spawning 2 1/1 Decrepit Archers.
Well, it looks like Bubbles has gone for a bit of a flank attack here. He's put the Decrepit Archer in front to try and block off some of Scylla a little bit. But then on the backside, he's also summoned a creature right next to the Summoning Stone to make Pot Pie have to make a decision. And Pot Pie is going to make that decision to take out that unit.
I think he misplayed there a little bit.
He should have gone for the Archer, do you reckon?
Well, he did there was he used the unit he spawned was Mercenary, which has charge and also gains +1/+1 for units adjacent to your Summoning Stone. So you see he played that Archer, and then his Mercenary became a 2/2, which was buffed by the Enyo flag. But the issue is, if he moved it to Scylla, then it would only have 2 attack and wouldn't have been able to kill her. So I think he made a little bit of a misplay in that spot.
Now, I have seen there's certain cards that are specific to a certain Pantheon, but there's also neutral cards which can be used by all the Pantheons, any deck you want. And how useful are they? Are they actually really useful, some of those cards?
There's some really impactful cards, and a lot of it is mostly... inside the neutral set, there's a lot of smaller set of minions that have mechanics built for a certain Pantheon, but can also be used by the others in case they want to. So, let me just talk about the Imperial Archer, Imperial Guard that we saw in the last game. Those are really centered around for playing inside Nuwa's deck, because she generates a spell with her leader ability, and she can combine those and get the spell and unit synergy. However, other Pantheons obviously have spells too, so if they want to, they can combine those.
Well, nice little bit of return from Bubbles there, taking down the Scylla eventually. But you can see that Pot Pie in his hand at the bottom has that Phantom Grasp. It mind controls an enemy god.
It does. It is only gods, though. You can't mind control any...
Why would you want to mind control minions? No. Can you mind control the Kraken?
No, it's not a unit.
I mean, the Kraken, technically...
No, it's not a unit.
Okay.
You can ask Scott if he wants to make it
Listen,
a tactical
I've
unit.
always wanted to mind control a Kraken.
You can mind control the Fire Giant. He's a neutral unit.
Oh, is he?
He's not a god.
Oh. What does he do? Buff your whole team?
He is actually Global Guard. So we actually haven't seen a guard mechanic remind me to talk about it if we do.
I was going to say, like, because
I don't want to overwhelm people with stuff that's not
quite a lot of mechanics
now.
in this game to do with what the cards do, from charge to guard, protect. There's a lot of things like this that come into play to make the decks, more different and versatile to do different things.
Yeah, and so there's different strategies. We're not seeing it right now, but Norse is very aggro focused, and so they have a lot of charge mechanics and also a lot of cards like Frenzy.
Sure.
So obviously we stole some names from Smite. I mean, why not?
You did. You stole some gods too.
Hey man, don't worry about that.
And then you stole some I've never seen them before.
Hey, Smite stole gods from mythology. Don't even.
I mean, we didn't steal them. We just took them.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's not stealing.
That's
everybody.
It's like the same thing.
Talk about everybody's. That Nemesis ult is going to weaken down the Athena a little bit, but you can see that Potpie right now has put a lot of damage onto Bubbles' summoning stone. It's down to 8 health already. That Athena on the right-hand side that he does control, it leaves it at 2. That's a low point to be at.
Yeah, and we saw that Athena come down on like the exact 6th turn of the game, and she hasn't left the board, right? It's just been a constant thing where Potpie has been able to buff her up with his leader ability and become just really devastating. And finally the Athena's going to fall, but his summoning stone is down to 8 health, so he is in a worrisome position.
But at the same time, Potpie's only got 3 cards in hand here. Medusa could come into some use, and we'll find out what that does when it comes out. I'll talk to you about it if it does get that way, because at the moment Bubbles has got great board control here.
Oh, he's got phenomenal board control. I expect to see a potential Deicide or Phantom Grasp. I don't really know what you want to Phantom Grasp here, though.
Deicide, what does that do?
Deicide kills an enemy god.
Not the whole team?
No, just an enemy god.
Just a god. Well,
just a god.
And it looks like that god isn't going to be... No, it's not him just yet. It's just going to get buffed, the Nemesis, a little bit more. Pass the turn back towards Bubbles, who's still on the defensive here. So I say he's on the defensive because the Nemesis is still around.
Yeah, and I actually kind of like this play coming out from Potpie. Because that Nemesis has 8 health, it's very hard to remove, and the opponent's Summoning Stone only has 8 health as well. And so...
Can Scylla get in range to deal that? I don't think she can she?
No, so...
you mentioned it was 2 range for her.
Yeah, so she has 2 movement and 3 range.
So
she could move 2 tiles to the right, but the Nemesis will be exactly 4 tiles away, which means she won't be able to kill that. She also doesn't have a unit to kill, so 3 of her damage is going to be lost at the end of this turn.
At this point in a game of Smite, we'd probably call this a base race as it stands right now.
It looks like a base race.
It seems like that's going to be the play. Bubbles thinks he can get enough damage out by the next turn after this one to be able to end it before Potpie can. But Potpie has Athena in hand, which can do 2 damage. Does that do that to the Summoning Stone as well?
Yes, it will do 2 damage. It's 2 damage to anything. Unit, Summoning Stone, anything on the board, Inyo Flag as well.
Well, this is the last turn then, for sure. It's the last 2 turns at least. Potpie has to end it now, and if he doesn't, it's game.
I don't think he can right now.
And he can't stop the amount of damage that's on the board. He only needs 8 Does Bubbles to get this first game, and Potpie doesn't really have anything to stop this.
I mean, he would have to kill the Blade Master and the Apollo here. I mean, and the Archer. He just doesn't have anything in hand that's going to be able to clear the board at all.
I don't think so either. I mean, he's got Thanatos, which can drop someone down from 2 health, but nobody's at 2 health right now. This could be the demise of Potpie yet again. 3 games in a row he's lost now.
It's not been looking too hot for him. And he came from the winner's bracket as well. Bubbles fought through the loser's bracket. I think he had lost, I believe it was the round or 2 before this.
Okay. Well, never surrender. Never give up. That's the whole plan in this one. There's no F6 for Bubbles here. I should say Potpie, who's the one that's in a little bit more trouble right now, as Bubbles is going to have a long, hard think after Potpie is trying to defend his base here.
And yeah, this is just kind of
game.
Him wasting time right now. He wasn't going to be able to stop the damage potential that was coming out. And right now, Bubbles is 1 win away from traveling to Valencia.
So he finds that first win there, does Bubbles, and that's a good situation for him to be in now. He can't play the Zeus deck again. Do we see him bring out the new War, or does he go elsewhere? When you talk about elsewhere, you mentioned it before. Was a Bologna deck. Who else is there? Ra?
There is, yeah. So there's Bologna for the Roman Pantheon, Ra for the Egyptian Pantheon, and it is Odin for the Norse Pantheon.
Of course it's Odin.
Mostly we see right now in the game, obviously we mentioned earlier where kind of the Chinese and the Greek Pantheon's got a lot of new cards in the past update. We're seeing kind of Egypt and Rome be the tiers below them, and then the Odin deck right, which is very focused on aggro, it can work, but it's a little bit of a risk. You're basically going, can I win by turn 6 or 7? And a lot of players, especially playing for Valencia, want to play a game style that is not reliant on getting your combo right there and maybe winning.
Yeah, and most of these games, as you can tell, will go to around 9-10 mana minimum before we actually really see an end. They can be quite fast-paced games. If you're behind and you don't get the card draw, it's just like any card game.
I mean, we saw, the 3-minute game earlier?
Yeah, that was quick.
Where it was just the Nuwa versus Nuwa in the previous set. And it looks like Popeye's going to stick with his Zeus, and Bubble's just going to switch over to his Nuwa.
It doesn't make much of a difference to really do this here for him. Now, we'll see how this one plays out for Popeye, because he's lost 3 in a row. I'm not confident
it hasn't
for
been
Popeye
good
right
for
now.
him. Popeye is actually one of the players that has been playing for, even since I've been running some weekly tournaments for the scene, obviously, to kind of build it up here. And Popeye has been playing for a long time. He didn't actually used to be a top player. It took him a few months, but he's really been performing well the past couple of weeks. And it's actually surprising to see him drop 3 games this early.
Well, we're into the game finally. And turn 3 mana is what I'm going to call this for Bubbles on the left-hand side. Popeye is going to be the top of your screen this time with his cards. And we'll keep an eye on Popeye this game because he has to find a win here to stay in contention and for going to DreamHack.
And a marksman comes out here, so again, talking about neutral minions that synergize with certain pantheons. Marksman actually gets +1 damage every time a god comes into play. He's only a 2-drop as well, and so he can ramp up and be scary because he is a ranged unit, so it's kind of scary if you play a melee unit too early on.
That's very true. When you think about Zeus's deck and the fact that he's looking for a lot of gods here, those sort of archers will get stronger as time goes on. Bubbles going to go for the defensive option with the 2/4 there, and the Decrepit Archer is dropped as well.
And let me just talk about this too. You can see Bubbles, where he placed his unit. A lot of players on an empty board will place their unit in the front of the Summoning Stone. Because he is against an archer and marksman, he places it in the back, so he counted out and made sure. You can actually see him right there counting out the movement range.
Just making sure.
And you really do have to calculate, okay, who can attack me next turn? Where can I attack? We're actually working on an update that's going to help better indicate it for players as well, coming in a couple future patches.
Well, the main thing for Bubbles' point of view this game is to stall, get as many of those Crescent Blades as possible, and then hopefully have Guan Yu and chop them all down.
Guan Yu is so fun.
I get the idea.
That's one thing I really love about Hand of the Gods.
It's like release Guan Yu and Smite. So.
It's not that powerful.
He's close.
Before we nerfed him, he was like that. But we nerfed him. We nerfed him.
You nerfed him too.
But just kind of the visuals we're able to do. I think we're able to do a lot of really cool effects in Unreal Engine 4. A card game in Unreal Engine 4 is not something you see too often. I don't really know who else does it besides us, but we're able to get a lot of really cool visual effects going. I hope someone plays an Egypt deck because Meteor is my favorite card I've ever seen.
Yeah, you showed me a little bit.
I know, I did show you earlier.
Looks pretty good. It's like a fireworks party. Hopefully we get to see a Kraken at some point. I would like to see one of those, and we've seen a couple of Poseidon so far, but none actually played.
Yeah, and, Greek, I know I keep going back to what I mentioned earlier.
Sure.
I'm going to stop saying that.
I
see you looking. I see
you
you
what
looking
I mentioned
at me.
earlier. It's okay. You used to be a caster.
I know. It's been a while, man.
But you mentioned that earlier.
But a lot of the gods have low stats for their mana cost, and so you kind of get behind.
I love this little play that Popeye just did there. He drops Enu, and you see that flag that he put down. Obviously, he can spawn units from it, but it does buff his units by 1, which is actually increasing the amount of damage these archers can do.
Yeah, and as a player on the other end, you want to be very careful against the Enu flag, just because if you're spending an attack or something to kill it, it's not really getting you ahead by killing other units.
Sure.
And if you're not careful and you leave it on board, well, now all those units are getting pumped up for extra damage.
The Rubble's in a bit of a tricky spot. It's basically 3.5 units we can say with that war flag down to 1 as it stands, and that 1 is a melee unit up against 2 ranged that could pretty much chip him all the way down if they wanted to, but instead he's going for just focused damage onto the Summoning Stone for the time being.
This isn't actually a bad spot, though. You can see in Bubbles' hand is an Ao Kuang who has +1 spell damage.
Sure.
In the past few turns, he's also generated multiple Crescent Blades. So those Crescent Blades, if those are played while Ao Kuang's down, are going to be dealing 2 damage. So he can kill both archers in this situation, but he can't kill the Inyo.
Well, let's find out what happens next, because it's a long, hard thought process from him here. He's got only 5 mana to spend, but when you play New One, you've got a lot of 0 mana costs in your hand. It might be a few more cards than you expect.
And he's going to do the combo here. I really like this choice, just making sure to get the archers out. Unfortunately, one of them was the Decrepit Bowman, so he did spawn 2 1/1 archers.
Which comes into play again for you to be able to put more pressure on. Chips down at Enyo as well with that last Crescent Blade, and now passes the turn back over to Popeye.
Now, the reason he did that, obviously he could have spent it to deal or to finish off one of those archers, but in his hand he has a Rushing Thunder. That's the 3rd card in his hand on the bottom there, which is going to deal 1 damage to all enemies.
Oh,
and now it's going to
2.
deal 2 damage to all enemies, so he's really looking to combo down that Enyo next turn by spending a little bit of mana here.
Well, in Popeye's hand right now, you can see Divine Intervention. I believe that looks like it might be a Thanatos. It might be, is that 4 mana Thanatos there, or is that me being... What's the
That is a
purple
4 mana Thanatos at the top. You
cool,
got it.
I'm learning. And I see an Archer in the hand too. I'm getting the cards. I'm learning them slowly but surely. As Ao Kwang could be under pressure here from Popeye, but it's range, so he could get some damage off, and I think that's what he's looking for.
I think he wants to kill this Ao Kwang because Nuwa can generate the Crescent Blades every turn. Ao Kwang is a pretty high priority target when you're playing against Chinese because it's just a little bit too much damage to deal with. So you do want to spend a lot of resources, sometimes a little bit more resources than you wanted to, just to make sure he's not on the board.
And in that case there, you saw me play the spell card from his hand to deal 2 damage to the Ao Kwang to finish him off. And good board position yet again for Popeye. He's held this pretty well, even though at the same time Bubbles has had some answers so far.
This is a kind of interesting deck coming out from Popeye. This is very aggro. This is very aggro focused, which you don't always see with Zeus.
Okay.
Kind of, the Bubbles playstyle we saw a little bit slower, but having, 2 marksmen as well as 2 decrepit bowmen, 2 Scylla, he's really looking to kind of get pressure on board early, which has worked out well for him so far.
Well, I just said Guan Yu for Bubbles, but the problem is he's just used all those Crescent Blades, which is what allows Guan Yu to be so effective. If he would have waited 1 turn, but that's the story of card games for the time being. If you don't get the draw and you misplay it at the time, and it wasn't a misplay at the time, but it is now.
It is now. So there's a few options here. This Enyo probably needs to die. He really needs to get control of board. He could generate a Crescent Blade for 2 mana and then use Rushing Thunder, but that's probably not going to do enough. He does have his Imperial Guard out here, which is going to get buffed anytime he uses a spell and receive no return damage, but the Enyo is a little bit too blocked off. It's been great placement by Popeye, making sure that Imperial Guard is not in range to get to the Enyo. You could see him setting up a body block with his 2 archers.
So I understand that these two, the 2 leaders, Nuwa and Zeus, you've also got Ra, right? Why have we got not just all mages? Because mages are lazy and sit in the back lines anyway in Smite, and it feels like they're doing that in this too. So why is Odin and Bellona now in the back lines? Like, come on.
Well, Odin and Bellona are, it's the All-Father Odin, right? He's leading his army. Bellona is a master tactician.
I'm just looking at mages.
That's actually Guan Yu.
Mages just sit at the back and do nothing.
But Bellona is a goddess, a warrior goddess, who leads her army into battle.
Okay.
It works.
That makes sense. And so does Odin to an extent. I guess.
He's the All-Father.
He is the All-Father indeed. Right now, though, Popeye looking to continue the pressure onto Bubbles, who's got 2 units down here. And it's about selecting how he wants to use these archers realistically to bring down these targets, or even if he just wants to go for direct damage to the Summoning Stone.
I think he really wants to clear the board right now. I think he's actually trying to set up to deal enough damage to the Imperial Guard so he can play his Thanatos and execute him.
But he's not got enough mana for that just yet. Like you said, though, Thanatos in hand and Nemesis 2, which could half health anything on the board that Bubbles has available to him, but I don't think he really wants to waste the Nemesis just yet.
Popeye is really thinking through this turn, and everything is incredibly calculated out. So now he's set his archers up in range. He's able to kill that Imperial Guard unit, and then I believe he will be just short of damage here. I don't know if he's going to use the Enyo.
This is full board control. That's what he's looking for more than anything. Oh, surprised he went for the shot there with Enyo onto the Summoning Stone.
So I like that, and the reason is if he deals 5 damage and kills that unit that Bubbles has out right now, the Enyo only has 1 health, and he's probably been paying attention and know that Bubbles has a Crescent Blade in hand.
Gotcha.
So there's no point in just allowing him to get a free kill.
Well, he might get a free kill soon because Guan Yu has arrived, Crescent Blade in hand, and 2 mana available for Bubbles to be able to use his Nuwa's ability to generate another Crescent Blade, which means he can do 2 damage to every unit the enemy has here.
He's just trying to calculate out exactly how he wants to do this. I expect to see a Rushing Thunder first, which is going to deal the 1 damage, and then proc Guan Yu's ability. So that's going to kill everything but the Nemesis and Enyo, and then he has another Crescent Blade, and he can finish off the rest.
Can he do all that with only 2 mana? Is that possible?
He can do it all with 2 mana.
That's crazy.
And there's also a card called Contemplation. I'm not sure if Bubbles is running it right now, which is a 1 mana card, and it generates 2 0-mana cards that do nothing, but they're really built around comboing with those Imperial units we've talked about earlier, and then Guan Yu as well to help board clear.
Well, there's the 1 damage going off straight away from what seems to be what you were talking about, and then the Guan Yu passive, and then the Crescent Blade as well.
And there it goes. There's the board clear, and this is what Chinese is about. Now, the issue is, though, that Bubbles, Summoning Stone, did get down to 12 health, so he's kind of in an awkward position.
But he's got board control for the first time.
He does have board control finally, but he doesn't have a big hand right now. I'd expect to see Emperor's Prize coming out next turn, which is draws a card for every friendly unit you have on the battlefield.
And take into account that if he spends two... Oh, the Kraken time, is it? There's water everywhere. That looked pretty good. It didn't kill him, though.
It only does 2 damage.
Krakens do more than 2 damage.
Well, it does 2 damage.
Unless you're playing in mid lane. Unless you're playing in the mid lane and Smite, that's when it's going to go to 2 damage.
Oh man, I did play a lot of Poseidon with you.
Just saying.
I hit him on the edge of the ult.
You did. I know he did too.
Hand of the gods.
But that's what you're going to see coming out from Zeus now for Pot Pie. He's going to be throwing the Krakens out time and time again. And even though Bubbles has a smaller hand size right now, and he's going to be able to draw some more, he can still use that passive to generate a card and allow Guan Yu to keep throwing free damage.
I don't expect to see this Guan Yu move ever. He
just
wants to keep it in the back line and make it really challenging for Pot Pie to get to.
And he's doing just that as it stands now. Still holding his turn, though, because he can definitely generate another Crescent Blade with this new war if he so chooses, and use it if he wants to, but it's not really worthwhile.
The other option is the Mercenary. You could see it highlighted on the bottom there for 2 mana, which will... It's a 1/1 card with charge. However, it gets +1/+1 for every unit you have adjacent to your Summoning Stone. So if he plays it now, it'll be a 3/3. And he's actually going to move back a unit just so this card now gets an extra 1/1. He sacrifices 1 extra damage on the stone just to have a more powerful unit.
Makes sense, and it also puts him in a pretty safe position overall here. However, is that mind control?
That was Phantom Grasp.
Was that Phantom Grasp? He just
Phantom
mind controlled it. He owns Guan Yu?
He owns Guan Yu right now.
The turncoat.
Pot Pie has stolen Guan Yu, and also the Phantom Grasp procced his passive and killed one of the units.
Oh,
that was devastating.
Terrible now. Pot Pie in a great position, but it did cost him all his mana to do that turn. So he spins it around, reduces some of the damage, now controls Guan Yu, and it's up to Bubbles to move the Guan Yu away from his very weakened Summoning Stone.
So a lot of card game players take a really long time to make their turn, but I love what Pot Pie did there. He instantly Phantom Grasped, and then he knew that was going to be his only turn, and ended the turn immediately. So now
pressure.
Bubbles has only 80 seconds to think about this turn instead of maybe the Phantom Grasp comes out and Pot Pie waits a little bit and gives him an opportunity to kind of think things through.
Such an important play from Pot Pie there to get that Phantom Grasp, because without it, he's already lost 3 games in a row. He needs to win this to stay in the running. It's best of 3.
If Bubbles wins this is it. He is going to DreamHack.
Well, Bubbles going to go straight in and whack away at his own Guan Yu, unfortunately. He wouldn't want to, but he kind of has to in this situation. And it's also reducing the amount of damage he's going to get done to the Summoning Stone as it stands because of his decision-making. I like the position of the Archer there. You see he's rotated right into the middle so he can reach both Guan Yu and next turn the Summoning Stone.
Yeah, and then also you can see the Mercenary there on the bottom right. A lot of players will position their units on corners of the Summoning Stone to make sure that if their opponent spawns something, they can cover all the options. Yeah.
Trapped as much as possible. With the mana cost right now available to Pot Pie, he's got 9 available. Athena is in hand along with Thanatos, so he could take out that little archer with the Thanatos if he so chose. I'm not sure it's the best idea, though.
Right now, he probably wants to deal with this Blade Master. It's a 4/5, which is pretty hefty on board. The Nemesis, it rounds down, so he can't steal 3 health. He'll only be stealing 2, which is actually what he chooses to do here.
Okay,
and then he's going to Judgment here. So he has 2 gods on board. The Judgment spell does 2 damage and then does 4 if you have 2 gods. But he actually uses it on the Mercenary instead.
Well, Mercenary was a little bit further forward there. He would have done some free damage to the Summoning Stone potentially. So at least pinning Bubbles back to his own half of the board.
And this was actually a very calculated play where that Mercenary was in range of the Nemesis and would have been able to trade out. But the Blade Master is not. He's just, I believe, a few movements short. The Blade Master also cannot reach Pot Pie's Summoning Stone. It's going to be 1 movement short as well.
But you can see the Blade Master there with the 4/3. He can kill the Thanatos at least trade out with the Thanatos, but it's not something you really want to do here. What's Gallus? It's the one obvious card I can see. What does Gallus do?
It is a 1/6, but adjacent units are immune to spells.
Oh, if it was immune to damage right now, it'd be great, because that'd help him out against the Thanatos.
Yeah, so Gallus is actually a card that's very good. against Chinese.
Ah.
So obviously,
So Chinese can get a card that allows them to do lots of damage for spell damage, and then a card that can stop people doing spell damage.
Anyone can get Gallus is a neutral.
Oh, it's neutral?
It's
Oh,
neutral.
that's even
Anyone
better.
can run it.
Okay, well, Gallus and all your dicks. If you're going against Noir, just run a couple of Galluses and you should be okay, potentially.
Well, yeah, and that's, I believe, I'm looking at the deck list right now, and Bubbles only has one Gallus, so this is put in specifically as a tech option.
He needs to open
against
more
Nuwa.
packs then and get another Gallus.
Pretty sure Bubbles has every card. Same with Pop Pie.
Well, then he needs to put 2 in his deck and take something out.
Hey, you know, I didn't build their decks.
Take
they
one of
built
those
their
Krakens
decks.
out. They only do 2 damage.
Well, you got to take the Poseidon out. You can't take the Kraken out.
Well, you know what I mean. It's the same thing.
Details. No, it's not the same thing.
Well, it's currently still Bubbles' turn. He's only got 1 mana left, but he does have board control once again here. However, it's over to Pot Pie, who drops Athena immediately and goes, you know what? You've both lost 2 health.
And so there's 2 options here. It might be the Thanatos, or it could just be using his leader ability to buff his Athena, and instead it's just going to be Thanatos once to get that on board.
Always use the Thanatos. However, Dragon King is available. This does 3 damage.
And 3 additional damage to all units in a row. So using it will actually deal 6 damage to the individual
But it's in a row.
that you target, yes, and then it also hits everything in a row.
So he can get Athena down to 1 health here, potentially. He can't do anything to Thanatos because it's not in a row.
He could also use Dragon King to kill Athena and then generate a Crescent Blade. That'll be 7 mana, and he'll have 3 left over if he wants to drop his Decrepit Bowman. And I think this is an important turn to Dragon King here. And it's also going to deal damage to that stone, obviously, in the same row.
Oh, nice. I forgot about the whole row of the summoning stone, too. So that's down to 13 now. So it's 15 plays 13. Card advantage is slightly in Bubbles' favor with that 1 extra card in hand, but he's probably going to play that now to even things back up.
I would imagine so. Hebo's kind of weak against Greek because they have a lot of Warcry abilities where they come in and make direct impact onto the board.
Sure.
And so you really don't want to send the Thanatos back up to the hand.
Never.
Because then he's just going to execute another unit.
Well, he'll execute the Hebo. Just come back and execute Hebo
right.
over again. It's kind of like realistic of Smite, though, to be fair.
A little bit.
You do follow it a little bit along this path. At the moment, though, there's only 3 mana remaining for Bubbles at the moment, and he's thinking about what he wants to do with his last 3 cards in hand. He can play any single one of them. That's the benefit here.
He doesn't want to play the Hebo, though. That's the issue.
He's holding it, yeah.
He just... I'm actually surprised we didn't see the Decrepit Fracture coming out just to get something on board, but he seems to just want to wait a little bit more for some combos, but
wow,
this could be bad.
Krakens and Blade Masters and Thanatoses, oh my. And now Bubbles is on 10 health to Popeye's 15 with not a great board position. Only really the Hebo.
I mean, he can't even use the Hebos, right? Because you're going to send the Thanatos back to his hand, which is obviously going to execute the Hebo. And
Sure.
he doesn't want to send the Blade Master back to the hand because that has charge. And it also heals the Summoning Stone. So by using Hebo against a Blade Master, he's actually giving 3 more health to Popeye's Stone.
So how does he get himself back into this one? Is this looking doom and gloom right now?
This isn't the end. He's already used his 2 big legendaries that he runs in his deck, the Guan Yu and the Dragon King, but he still has Sun Wukong, who's a very powerful card, has a lot of high stats, but he's still going to have to draw that. He's got 8 cards left in his hand. So he's in a really bad spot right now.
He needs the heart of the cards.
He does need the heart of the cards.
Well, he's not going to get any card draw right now. Other than a Crescent Blade that he could do for 2 mana, other than the remaining cards in his hand. So he could play 3 of these potentially if the situation calls for it.
I think he made a mistake by not playing this Decrepit Archer last turn. By trying to save it here. He is going to be able to use his Projection, which is a 3-mana spell. It takes the attack value of one of your friendly units and deals it as damage. So at least he was able to kill the Thanatos.
Oh, but Scylla just came out as well as the Athena still in hand for Pot Pie, and Athena drops down here. Could spell some issues. No, it's not. It's Krakens instead.
Well, he Krakens, pops the Fractures,
Perfect.
and then lands down. And he's got 2 damage short of lethal, and I really don't think we're going to see any way for Bubbles to stop this.
So this could be 1-1 over in Europe now, and Bubbles and Pot Pie are going at it and been going at it for a while. This is the first one Bubbles has lost, and it may be the first time we see Pot Pie have to change his decks now. Yes, it will be. Bubbles will give up the game there and surrender. Not a real surprise. There was no way back in for him that game.
So it all comes down to 1 game, actually.
It does.
That's the first 2 games, 1-1 right now. So
it seems balanced so far.
I mean, it's just
so far. It's high res though, so I don't know.
Hey. Everything's...
I know I work for the company too, but it is high res.
Everything's balanced for the rarity cost.
So for game 3 then, we're going to see Noir more than likely versus Noir. It's that.
It's a mirror match.
And whoever wins this will go to DreamHack and enter the semi-finals of the tournament we're having there. They get an automatic place in the semi-finals.
Yeah, and so anyone who's watching this broadcast as well, if you are going to be at DreamHack Valencia during July, we're actually going to have an open bracket tournament where the top 2 players that come out of this will play the North American and European winners that we're about to find out who they are.
Oh, and if they win those games, they go to the finals.
And that's for $7,500. So, I mean, if you're just at DreamHack, you can actually just sign up for this tournament and potentially win money just for being there. You do need a gamer pass, though, or a LAN pass.
So, we're going to see Nuar versus Nuar. Do we see Gallius?
I mean, well, he's being run right now.
Lots of Galliuses in
I
this
think
game.
we're going to see one. The same,
At least one,
the
because
same,
you just know
the
'cause it's
same,
in the same.
the
So
same one we just saw.
Just to be clear, up for this tournament, they're not allowed to change their decks in between games.
No, deck lists are locked, so these players, when they entered into this final, they submitted their deck list, and so they just keep those decks. They are not allowed to make any changes or adjustments to them.
So they have to keep them for the entire time. Straight into game, though, and this time Pot Pie will be on your left-hand side. His cards are at the bottom of the screen. And at the top of the screen on the right-hand side is where our boy Bubbles will be. Hey, Bubbles has done great work to get to this point, though. He came through losers bracket, managed to get a reset against Pot Pie, and now he finds himself just one game away from DreamHack. It's not all doom and gloom for him.
And he has a lot of cards in hand, but nothing on board right now. And he doesn't really have... He has got a ton of spells in his hand. This
But
actually...
you can sit on this, right? As New War, you just want to generate as many Crescent Blades as you can and wait for the whole wombo combo to become available.
You can, but you need to be very careful. The 3-minute game we saw earlier was kind of that same situation where he was trying to delay, but I believe it was Bubbles. It was actually the reverse situation of this, where Bubbles was just able to get so much on board. So you always got to be careful with it.
I'm just looking for the cards I don't really recognize too much. Sagittarius?
RNG! Oh, he got it!
He got the RNG. What was the RNG? Tell me about it.
So the Imperial Archer there on the bottom left that you're going to see
He's
moved
moving.
when a spell is played will deal 1 random damage.
You what?
And so he used 2 Crescent Blades.
Roman ranged in the game?
On the unit, yeah. And then both shots hit the Imperial Guard instead of the Summoning Stone, which was exactly what he needed to kill it.
Okay. Well, pressure back this time round, looking for it. At least is Bubbles after
brutal.
The situation he was in, but a lot of Crescent Blades used.
Yeah, and so right there, it was just a matter of Bubbles really couldn't get behind on board, and he knew it. And so he had to use 3 Crescent Blades that he had generated just to kill a 1-3. Obviously not ideal, but he didn't want to fall too far behind.
These elite turns have been really quick. We're already on 6 mana turn already. They just don't really hesitate in the early game, but it's when it gets to the midpoint that it can slow down
That's when you really have to think about your units, your movement, right? Your positioning is always very important.
Because it's like a chessboard, I guess. It's the best way of looking at it. It's like all these squares.
It's 8x5.
Only one character can go in each of the squares. And sometimes you can't move past them or deal damage to them until you move all units.
Yeah, and it's not just a traditional card game where you have okay, I have my unit on the board. Anyone can attack it.
Sure.
This is a very position-dependent game. And so players that really sit there and analyze kind of where to put your units for body blocks and how to keep yourself out of range or aggressively place things do very well.
Well, what we just learned there is Blade Master beats Blade Master if you've got a Crescent Blade in hand.
Yes, it does.
That's what we just learned so far.
You see a lot of Crescent Blades.
Bubbles has managed to get himself the Guan Yu. He just drew that on the last turn. He doesn't have too many Crescent Blades available, though, to deal enough damage to actually bring down this turret and the Blade Master too. And if he plays it down too early, Blade Master could just go in for the kill.
Yeah, I think he's going to save the Guan Yu here. You can actually see him.
That's what he's checking the range.
You could see Popeye right there, just like highlighting it out.
So if Bubbles pops out in the top right-hand corner of his Summoning Stone, then we won't be able to see Blade Master reach it this turn.
I believe 1, 2, 3 note it will be just short, but at the same time, he has to worry about other cards killing it.
Sure.
We know a lot of new walls like to run projection, which again takes the attack value. So if he does that, then projection could come out. Obviously, we see there's no projection.
Is that your
in hand
BM? Is
of
that your
Popeye.
BM taunt in this? Is spamming high?
Oh, there's so many.
Is that what it is?
taunts.
High?
You never do like the negative when you're BMing someone, like any negative emotes.
Okay.
You always do like the
positive
friendly ones when you're beating someone.
Yeah, it's just like Smite.
Hello.
You rock.
Good game.
Good
you rock.
game.
You rock.
Good game.
You're
Good
the
game.
greatest.
Well, you are the greatest. At least one of
Thank
these
you.
two
I appreciate
will
that.
be the greatest, at least until DreamHack comes around. So Mukong going to be summoned, and he's going to use the Ox form, which deals 2 damage to all units around him, I believe.
Yes, and so we haven't seen it. I don't know if we will, but there's 3 animal forms.
What's the bird form do?
So the bird form doubles the movement of all friendlies.
On the board or future friendlies too?
All on the board. No future.
So
it's only whoever's on the board.
Okay, so very situational that
yeah,
one.
so
I get
that's
it.
situational, and the other gives him 2 attack, right? So if there's
Which is great.
nothing you want to deal damage to adjacent, you just give yourself 2 attack.
Well, Pot Pie, what he's doing, he's hitting up with reinforcements and
Yep.
defenses more than anything else here. That turret is now in a great position to be protected and consistently keep people off this summoning stone.
And this is how the game can become incredibly dynamic when you have units that are just going to sit in the back line that you can kind of wait for, right? He doesn't want to put anything aggressively. He's basically saying, I'm willing to take 6 damage to my summoning stone if you play aggressively, because he's just gonna buff those Imperial Guards to make them immune to return damage.
And actually looking at Bubbles' hand here, which is at the top of your screen, and it is his turn right now. What you will see is that I think we're just going to see armies be built up for a couple of turns here, because neither one of them really has an opportunity.
Sometimes it's a very aggressive game like we saw earlier, and sometimes it's, okay, I don't really have anything, and it becomes a war of attrition. And so you're really...
Who's got the better army?
Well, right now, clearly, Pot Pie on the left.
Sure, but Sun Wukong is a god.
But Sun Wukong can't move forward in this situation.
He can't.
He can't. I mean, he can deal 6 damage to the stone, but then he's just going to get killed off by those Imperial Guard units, and that's what Bubbles is trying to think through right now: is how am I going to deal with those Imperial Guard units? He has the Guan Yu in hand, but he doesn't have enough mana to combo and finish them off right now. He actually might just start playing Crescent Blades and building up his own army until he can use that Guan Yu combo, and that's actually exactly what he's going to do here. I really like this play from him.
So it's volley 3 in terms of units on the board so far, but Hebo in hand now for Pot Pie on the draw. He can easily just return one of these back to his hand. Not necessarily Sun Wukong is the greatest idea here.
No.
Because he could just reform again and maybe even use bird form for his team.
It's not the biggest deal to send back the Sun Wukong, mostly because...
There's no point right now.
The thing is, if you send back the Sun Wukong, that is a 6-mana card that is going to have to be redeployed. So Bubbles is going to have to waste 6 mana and then can't use his Guan Yu combo if he wants to, if that is in his hand, or he has to use the combo with the Guan Yu and then just wait on the Sun Wukong.
Well, it's Pot Pie's turn, and what Pot Pie's checking there, as you see him click on the unit, just checking the range of how far they can get to. And himself, summon the Sun Wukong too. His decision there, I've seen, was, what was he choosing? Bird form.
Yeah.
So he's gone for the mobility for all his troops on the board.
And so traditionally, Melee have the 3 movement to start. Now all those will have 6.
6?
Yeah, it doubles
That's huge.
It doubles it. Actually, I think he just highlighted over there. So you can see the double movement right now. So it's a situational animal form, but it can be really impactful if you already have units on the board. Oh, and look at him. He's just spamming units right now. Oh, that was such a beautiful play by Pot Pie.
He got 2 cards in hand and immediately just got some extra damage out. And here's the run-in from the backline troops that were just sat there, both 6/4s, and Sun Wukong is already down.
That was just such an intelligent play, giving his Imperial Guards double movement and then buffing them up with all his spells so they wouldn't take return damage and would have enough to finish off that Sun Wukong. And now Bubbles is in a bad spot.
Surprisingly enough, he did that before he knew what cards he was going to get. He was hoping for the cards, correct?
He was.
Because Sun Wukong came out the bird form, then
it was
got
perfect.
the card
It was, it's a card game. Sometimes you top deck, man. Sometimes you top deck.
You got to hope that your deck follows the rules that you want it to.
I think we're going to see a Dragon. Yeah, Dragon King here has to come out.
Nice damage.
And then we're probably going to see a Rushing Thunder played to kill off both the Sun Wukong and that 1 health Imperial Guard. That will also buff up Bubbles' Imperial Guard in that back line, giving him 4 damage, and he'll be able to completely clear out Pot Pies.
So talk to me about how I get into playing this game too, because I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, if I want to start playing tomorrow, as an example, or even tonight, I can just go and download the game. I've got a high-res account, and how do I get cards?
How do you get cards? So you start the game here if you're completely new, and we give you 5 free decks, so you get 1 free deck from each of the Pantheons. From there, you play games, and then you will earn rewards as you go. We also give, I believe it's 7 free card packs just for new players coming in, and then you can also follow our social media channels.
Is there anything in those card packs? Like, is there any are they limited card packs or anything like that, or is it like
no?
any card?
You can get any card in the game with the card packs, and then also there is free card packs that you can get from following us on social media as well. So we actually give players actually a pretty big bump when they first get going, and then from there you kind of figure out which Pantheon's play style you like and start to build cards off that. We have a crafting system as well, where if you get any extra cards, you can disenchant them, get dust, and then use that to buy the cards you would like.
Well, if you just tuned in, this is All Europe. It's the final game of the European set, as it's currently 1-1. And then we're going to take a short break and go over to North America, where we get to see which 2 players in North America Which one of them will be going to DreamHack?
Mr. C4 and Mace to the Face. The
I know
old school
him.
Smite Pro player. Yeah, he's competing in this.
I heard Shadow Q was competing too.
Yeah, Shadow Q competed. He lost to actually Mr. C4 in the round before that.
Oh, so his brother can get revenge.
Yes. It was almost a Grabowski finals. I was expecting it to be for a little bit. I was like, Mace versus Shadow Q. That would be fun to watch.
Well, back on this game, the board is pretty much cleared out, even though he talks a little bit about maybe seeing a war of attrition for a second, but it's all Pot Pie and all Guan Yu as it stands.
Yeah,
right
it was
now.
actually both players just had really good combinations to clear the board, right? We saw Pot Pie's beautiful Eagle form play coming out from the Sun Wukong, and then the Dragon King from Bubbles was able to wipe the board as well. So now it's kind of a reset. Both are actually at pretty high Summoning Stone health for how many units who have been played, but really the main focus is kind of killing off enemy units in Hand of the Gods. The rush style doesn't really work for either of these decks.
So obviously we've seen the Chinese Pantheon quite a lot with New War here and the spell combo decks. Zeus with the ramp deck of all the gods. You mentioned a little bit about Odin. He's like an aggro rush deck.
He's the aggro, right? His ability...
what did Egypt do then? What's Egypt's game plan?
Egypt is mostly focused on healing and resurrection.
So I guess Ra's the leader?
Yes, Ra is the leader.
That would not surprise me.
So Ra can heal units in a column, and then there's certain cards in that pantheon that receive buffs when they're healed. So Sobek is a 1/3 who gets 1/1 every time a unit is healed. They also have a new card that came in the last patch, which was Isis. She's a legendary for 8 mana. However, when she is played, she has a Warcry where she gives every friendly unit resurrection.
Resurrection?
Yeah, so if you have a board full and you play that, now if your opponent kills them, they're just going to resurrect completely with their full stats.
I just hope Ajax is not listening, because I do not want to see Isis get that in Smite right now, that's for sure. Ball pressure is still in Pot Pie's favour here. It's on his turn. He's got 5 mana left to think about what he wants to do. Has a Crescent Blade in hand, but it's not really worth wasting until there's units down on the board that Bubbles has played.
Yeah, I mean, it can't deal damage to any stone. It can only be dealt with units. And again, a lot of it's just kind of holding onto the Crescent Blade so you can combo. And right now, Popeye really doesn't have anything to play
This
at all.
deck kind of feels like the new War style feels like it could be very susceptible to an Odin aggro style, just because of how long it takes to get going.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you're able to get your Rushing Thunders or your Guan Yu combos, but a lot of those situations, you're actually about to lose if you don't get anything on the board. And so we've actually seen, I mean, in these new wall games where a lot of times the new wall won't have anything on the board for quite some time, and so they do have that weakness to aggro. However, you know, right now the Odin deck really just doesn't have enough options. Obviously, something we're working on fixing as we go forward.
Well, I'm gonna speak to Shadow Q and Mace at the face after this broadcast and be like, "Yo, make me an Odin deck real quick," and I'll give it a go and just run down all these new wall players.
Oh yeah, easily do that. They'll have no idea what to do.
Okay. Well, Guan Yu versus Guan Yu is the matchup in the solo lane, or the middle lane, or the dual lane, whichever way you want to call it in this game so far. And there's one Archer minion, and you always know the Archer minions are OP.
Archers are really strong, man. This card's actually getting a nerf in the next patch. The Decrepit Bowman.
What are you doing to him?
He's just going down to a 1/1.
He's not decrepit anymore? He's
well,
more
he's
decrepit.
He's
super decrepit now. Is that what you're
super
telling me?
decrepit. He's only a 1/1 instead of a 2/2.
Well, you see the power of the Guan Yu for Bubbles there as he manages to take down the enemy Guan Yu and the decrepit and his teammates of the respawn after his death too. So now Pot Pie's going to start this turn with a completely empty board for himself.
So he actually can kill this Guan Yu, but he has to play a lot of cards that he probably doesn't want to waste here. He would have to play a lot of his board clears. He might just use the Hebo, knock the Guan Yu back up into the hand. He doesn't have anything to play, and he probably just wants to go a little bit slow on this.
And with that, knocking the Hebo back, I mean, it's going to cost Bubbles 5 mana to resummon Guan Yu in the first place, which kind of limits his options on the next turn, and sometimes just disrupting the flow of a deck is very important.
Yeah, right now Popeye is trying to figure out how he's going to kill this Guan Yu, whether it's this turn or whether he can wait a turn and kill it again. And if that's the case, oh wow, so he just actually passed his turn completely. He's like, I can't deal with this Guan Yu. I'm going to wait for the next turn. And because Bubbles doesn't really have anything on board right now, this isn't the worst spot. He knows Bubbles isn't going to want to move that Guan Yu forward. Most players leave their Guan Yu in the back line to stay alive.
Unless he's trying to bait him into moving it forward.
It's possible.
The tricky, sneaky Pot Pie.
I don't know if he's that sneaky.
And then I've never heard of a Pot Pie being sneaky, but you know, we'll find out.
Who knows?
Imperial Archers, 2 of which are available for Bubbles here, so he could get quite a lot of ranged on the board, and that could create a lot of issues for Pot Pie going forward, especially with the lack of actual cards in hand that are deployable.
Yeah, I would actually like to see either a Decrepit Bowman and Imperial Archer, and then play the Emperor's Prize, which is the second card in the hand at the top. that will
give you a prize?
Draw a card. Yeah, the prize is more cards for every friendly unit you have. So he would be able to draw 3 more cards off that. He spends 9 as his mana. He doesn't generate a Crescent Blade, but at the very least, he goes deeper into his deck. He may both players may be a little bit worried though.
I was about to say about deck size, because you can see the deck's 10 cards left in the deck for Bubbles in the top right-hand corner. Bottom right-hand corner, you can see Pot Pie's only got 7 left. What happens when they run out of cards?
That is fatigue damage. So your Summoning Stone will take ramping damage, starts at 1, then it does 2, then it does 3, or excuse me, 4.
So it's 3 then 4, not ramping?
2, then 3.
Okay, so it's 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
5, 6, 7.
It ramps 1 extra damage each turn. When you, it actually ramps anytime you try and draw a card.
Does it really?
Yeah. So if
I want you to draw cards, is it cards that I could do that, where I can make you draw cards?
Maybe in the future.
Oh, I hope so. I love mill decks; they're always fun.
So there's that possibility. But right now,
It's scummy,
there's no mill.
but it's my style.
You love mill.
I'm scum. I can't
You
help
are
it.
scum.
I know.
You just asked to play aggro. That's how I know you're scum.
I would play aggro, or I'd play mill decks. That's what I'd do.
I hate you.
Anything like that, or anything that makes you throw your hand away, I'm down for. It's kind of how I deal with things. So at the moment, you can see the Summoning Stones are both 23 to 23, so it's still relatively even here. However, card difference between the two is actually still even too, so this is still all square. No one's really got a lead here.
And both are on the same card or hand sizes as well, and the same. Everything's identical right now. This has been an interesting
They're both
game.
noir, they're both playing cards, they've both got the same amount of cards, they've both got the same health.
They've been playing really well so far, I think, positioning-wise and making sure to clear the board. Also, both have now lost their Guan Yus, so they don't have to worry about that when calculating out their moves.
Now, this is early beta as well, correct?
Yes, we are. Well, we are closed beta right now.
Closed beta.
Yeah, so obviously, we're not in the alpha stage anymore.
I mean, the spectator's going to improve too, so we can actually look through the cards a little bit more and be like, hey, what's this one doing?
Yeah,
hey,
a lot of the game in the recent patch has been really focused on polishing. If you look at our maps a few months ago, they were nothing compared to what they are right now. And again, we're getting a new UI coming in this next patch, which is going to help a lot of performance issues players have had, and also visually just be a lot better, and then a very smooth experience when you're going through the menus and your collection and seeing all your cards.
So we're going to have a Thunderdome drafting mode that you can play cards in, new UI to come with
ranked
this,
as well.
Then ranked play too.
This is a big patch.
Okay.
This is a big patch that the team put a lot of work into in a very short amount of time.
And is this region locked at all? I guess not. Is it because it's a card game, or is it?
No, it's a card game, so you're going to be playing anyone from around the world that wants to play. Yeah, no region locking. Now, we did region lock this tournament.
For the tournament?
Just for NA versus EU.
Sure.
Get representatives from both sides.
Just let EU win again. That's why we're after.
I'm not going to lie.
Give
EU's
NA a
better.
spot.
EU overall has been better in this game.
Which is better.
But in the past 3 weeks of these qualifiers, they've been split up, so I don't know who's better now.
Well, it's either Pot Pie or Bubbles who is the favorite. That's it. They're both Europeans, so they're going to win anyway.
Yeah, and these guys have been really consistent in their games as well. The past few weeks, they've both finished in the top 3 to 4, so they've been very consistent and very intelligent players as well.
Well, Bubbles using those archers and drew a Blade Master for himself to answer back the one that Pot Pie had. And now the question is, for Pot Pie's point of view, is do I look to take out the Blade Master himself? He has the Ao Kuang in hand, so the spell damage is about to go up. With a Crescent Blade means he can do 2 damage to a minion right now.
He could also send 1 back into the hand, but he's just going to get the Ao Kuang out, and there goes Rushing Thunder. So he wants to clear this board. He also has another Rushing Thunder to finish off everything. That was just a perfect thing he had going for him.
The dream for Pot Pie, and this could be a dream that takes him all the way to Valencia with this board presence now. There is advantage for Bubbles with card advantage in hand, but has he got the right cards for the situation?
I think what we're going to see here is Ao Kuang played and then projection used to kill Pot Pie's Ao Kuang.
So the same thing we just saw.
Basically.
Of course it is. It's
back
the same
forth.
2 decks.
These guys practice against each other.
Is there
so
anything
of course they're
different in
running
their decks?
stuff. I have the deck
Do they
list
have anything
right
different in
here.
their decks?
Let's take a look at the deck list, Hindu.
Go for it.
It's mostly the same.
Okay.
There's a Chaos Spawn, which silences a unit.
And that silences on when it comes in, or is it just a Warcry ability?
Yeah, it's a Warcry ability. So this would have been more useful against the Guan Yu. So then it's just, he plays 5 mana, and then it's just a 2/5.
A 2/5.
But
Rest in peace.
he didn't have it when the Guan Yu was out, so yeah, I think he instead just killed it.
Well, Bubbles is going to take his sweet time on this one, just because it's a very important turn for himself. Because if he doesn't get some of this board clear, and there is that unit, I believe he just silenced the Ao Kuang.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep, so he doesn't want him to have that extra
summons
1
his own.
spell damage. I am really surprised that he didn't use projection. I guess he knows he can use it next turn and instead would rather kill the Blade Master because the Blade Master would have been able to finish off his own Ao Kuang.
New card, I've not seen this. What's Hou Yi do?
Hou Yi, Hou Yi's really fun. So Hou Yi's 4 mana 3/3. However, his attacks hit a random adjacent target to whoever he hits.
He hits 2 people at the same time, basically.
Yeah, so he's really good for against an empty board like this. So next turn, if the Hou Yi is still alive, the Hou Yi is going to be able to attack the Summoning Stone, deal 2 damage to it, and because obviously Bubbles can only spawn stuff adjacent to his own Summoning Stone, it will deal 3 damage to whatever that unit is.
Could this be game right now, Adonis? Because I'm looking at this and look at the amount of damage that Popeye has on the board for himself. He's got, 5 on the Ao Kuang, then in the backline he can still get all that damage off too, which is a good 12, which is enough for lethal.
He can slow this down right now. I think we're going to see a Mercenary come out, mostly to finish off that Hou Yi, just because Hou Yi is very devastating early in the game. And actually not. He's going to leave the Hou Yi alive. So this Hou Yi next turn will deal 3 damage to that Ao Kuang for free. And also, there's another Ao Kuang for Popeye.
So that's 2 damage to the Crescent Blade.
It's going to get finished off
which means the Ao Kuang's dead, and that's going to put Bubbles at 9 health with no units on the board.
This is lethal. So he has Mercenary here. He can silence the Ao Kuang or Hou Yi.
It's not going to stop it. This is game, right?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
You count.
I mean, he can use Mercenary to kill the Hou Yi, or he can finish at least 1 unit off.
So the Mercenary does what exactly?
Sorry, say that again?
What does the Mercenary do?
Mercenary is the 1/1 that gets +1/+1 for every friendly adjacent to your Summoning Stone.
Gotcha.
So in this situation, he would have to play other units before that.
Makes sense. Well, Bubbles, his dreams could be slipping away right now of going to DreamHack, where Popeye, after losing for quite a few games in a row...
Yeah, he lost the first 3. One of them was a 10-minute game. One of them was a 3-minute game.
That's a benefit of being in the winner's final. You get a chance to redeem yourself a second time, and you only got to win 2. And this could be the second one for Popeye to put him through to DreamHack.
So I expect to see the Chaos Spawn come out here and silence the Ao Kuang. He's also probably going to put it on the bottom left of his stone, because that means Ao Kuang will be body blocked and out of range of the Summoning Stone.
I think that Ao Kuang's still the silenced one, though.
Is it already the silenced one?
I'm not so sure, but I think he just moved it back, so I'm not 100% certain now. Here comes one of the archers onto the field again. He's the one that becomes a 2/1/1s when he dies. And his team...
You're right, I think he is silenced already. And so instead he chose to silence the decrepit archer. So
see, look at me, I'm learning.
The 2/1/1s.
I'm learning. I'm a caster, that's what I do. I know these things.
You learn as you go. I mean, if you're learning as we go, that's good. Hopefully everyone else watching has been learning as we go.
I hope so too. Well, there's a Crescent Blade in hand for Popeye, and that's 2 damage. No, 1. Oh, it is 2.
It wasn't silenced. You lied to me. I trusted you, Graham. I trusted you.
Baited and outsmarted, but here's a nice shot. He could have hit all these targets if he so chose. He's going to take the 1/1 out for the simple reason it'll stay alive, and he can get some extra damage off. But still, again, Popeye in ball control and a good 5 damage puts a real threat now to Bubbles. He has to find some way to get back into it. Hebo will give him a window.
It'll knock the Ao Kuang back up into the hand, and so he can delay for now, but he's really got to get something on board right now. And you can see both players only have 2 cards left in their deck. I don't actually know if Bubbles has cards available that'll actually allow him to win at this point. I think he's spent most of his big mana cards already.
This is the future for us as casters here, because then I'm going to get the deck list and tick them off as we go, so I know what he's got left available.
This is a closed beta cast for a closed beta game.
That's true.
You're the closed beta part
of
the
cast.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're the closed beta
You're
part.
the alpha part. Don't worry, I'm fine with that. And no, not alpha male, just alpha. That's pretty much it.
I hate you, Graham.
On the defense now is Bubbles, as we were saying. He's just going to try and hold on. And then when I'm actually looking at card draw, the problem is that you talked about burn.
Yep, fatigue damage.
The fatigue's going to come into play, and with only 2 cards and 4 health, he's not going to live very long.
It's he's got to win now, and you can see him. He is just spending his entire hand to try and rush this down. Oh, Dragon King. That's game.
3 damage in a row.
That is 3.
A 4 with Ao Kuang.
And he's not even going to target the stone. They would have done 6 damage to the stone, but instead it's the BM finish because he knows he gets +1 damage on the row hit.
Well, congratulations, Pot Pie from Europe will make it through now to DreamHack Valencia. He's going to get a free trip over there as well as a ticket bought and compete in the semi-finals there to see who are one of our first Hand of the Gods champions.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to see Pot Pie win there because he has been playing and grinding out the game for a really long time. And we've gone through, so many changes for those who have seen our game, even 2 to 3 months ago. We've made a lot of core gameplay updates to get this game as best as it can.
Sure. I mean, the last time I really played this game was before Harris Expo last year.
Yes.
And now it's changed so much in the few months since then. Well, that's it for Europe, but we still got North America to come. I'm going to be having a look at Mace to the Face versus, what was his name again?
Mr. C4.
Mr. C4. Let's see how explosive he can be after this short break in North America.
I like that one.
Thank you. Welcome back for some more Hand of the Gods action. We just saw Europe take place, I should say. Now we're over to North America, where things are very similar. Obviously, the game's still the same. It's just North Americans, which means a lower level of skill, right?
No, the better level of skill.
Okay.
Actually, Europe's actually been very dominant overall.
Have they?
But it's been kind of a 3-week break as they went through the qualifiers. Mace to the Face has come onto the scene as well. Same with Shadow Q, and actually they've been performing really well. They very quickly ramped up to one of the top players.
But Shadow Q, I believe, got beat by Mr. C4 in the losers bracket.
Right before this, he lost to Mr. C4, I believe.
So Mr. C4 now has to go against the brother, and
Brother Grabowski.
We'll see if Mace to the Face can get revenge here. Now, Mace only needs to win 2 games out of these first 3 to win. But if Mr. C4 can find the 2 wins here in the first best of 3, it will reset it one more time.
Just like we saw with Bubbles and Popeye.
Exactly, we'll go straight in. But we're already in, and Mercury's dealing damage. What the hell does Mercury do?
So Mercury is, when he comes into play, a little bit similar to Archer, where he has a war cry that deals 1 damage 3 times. Could be onto anything, and obviously
as up and down the field.
As there's nothing on the board right now, he did that directly to the summoning stone.
Okay, where's Vulcan? I see his turret all the time, it seems.
Well, this is the Inferno Cannon.
Oh, but that's Vulcan.
So there's 2 things, right? Vulcan's in the game.
What does he do?
His war cry is he deploys an Inferno Cannon.
So he could get 2 Inferno Cannons? 3, technically. 4.
You can get
4.
You can get a lot of Inferno Cannons.
So if I want to build a cannon deck, could I do that?
You can get 3 cannons. No, you can get 4 cannons, guaranteed.
I want cannons and mill.
That's not in the game yet. But you can go cannons. You can go the 4 cannons. Okay. And there's also a card called Sagittarius, which we've seen a couple times.
We've not seen Medusa, and we have just seen it now, so I want to bring that to your attention. Mr. C4 just played it. He's on the right-hand side of your screen. The top of the map is where his cards are. What does Medusa do? So
Medusa here is a 5-mana drop, 3/5. However, if she kills an enemy unit that is damaged, she turns them to stone. And this is actually a really powerful effect because it cancels any afterlife effects as well.
Oh, does it really? So it doesn't allow
it's
you
just
to...
like it's essentially a silence as well. It just turns them into stone, and their actual statue will have the health they had when they were attacked, and it will sit there and body block a tile. Yeah, so you can obviously attack the unit turned to stone, but a lot of times players will just leave it on the board just to set up natural body blockers that other players have to deal with.
Well, I do see a Cupid in hand, and we've not seen Bologna just yet. We've not seen Bologna, and you talked about it a little bit earlier on, but what does she do?
So I want to go top level with Bologna.
Okay.
Her leader ability is that.
She can just move turrets around?
Yes. So there's a card in the game called Blink. When we reevaluated all the leaders in the Pantheons, we actually moved that card essentially to become her leader ability. So friendly or enemies, she can spend 2 mana and move them 3 tiles.
Wow.
So Rome is actually, and this is something that the development and design teams were able to do really well, is because we have a board and movement is such a big factor, the Roman Pantheon essentially is focused around movement. Okay. So they have a lot of combos about moving units, dealing damage to units who move. There's a card called Tenacity, which is a buff card on a friendly unit where whenever an enemy moves, that unit gets +1/+1. Oh. So it's kind of a unique twist on the control, the traditional control style decks, except instead of killing units, you're actually moving them around the map.
Just disposition them over and over again, put them in an awkward spot where they don't want to be. Melee, not right next to range units, but further range units right at the back so they can't reach, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so you'll see a lot of Bologna players play things in the back line and then move their unit and then blink them forward.
I'm more excited about Mace's deck because there's new cards I've not seen yet. That's the big thing. And I've not seen a Hades, which I've just seen on the board now. Yeah,
so Hades actually makes the enemies' gods cost 1 more.
Oh.
So if you can play them on curve, that's really good because now you could see in hand the Terra and the Sylvanas for Mace to the Face are 7 mana. Those are traditionally 6. Oh. And so he can't play those this turn, which he probably would have liked to play either a Sylvanas.
Sure. And if not, he has Cupid in hand too, but that's going to cost him an additional mana, which means he can't also use his ability to blink a unit away or towards it.
No, he cannot use the 2-man combo there.
What's the ability called for a blow? It's called Blink.
It's called Blink.
Is it? I wasn't sure.
I think it is.
That's Cupid.
Blink.
What's he do?
So
Heart Bomb.
So this is Cupid's ability is getting changed next patch.
Why?
Because again,
he sucks.
He's
OP.
His new ability is not as strong. However, it's more in line with the Pantheon's theme. And so last patch we remade all the Pantheons and kind of reorganized everything. And so a lot of these updates are making sure that thematically and design-wise everything works together within a single Pantheon. So right now, Cupid's ability is a love strike, right? So he picks an enemy unit. Whenever Cupid dies, the unit he is attached to dies as well.
Interesting. So you could leave the Cupid on the board and Hades will be alive too, but if Hades dies, or Cupid dies, Hades is going to die too?
And it's this design is actually, it's good, but again, it doesn't fit the Roman Pantheon anymore, where it's a very strong unit, where it has a lot of damage and a range unit, but a low health pool. Well, now you have to make a decision as Mr. C4 on whether you want to kill that Cupid or not.
It's definitely wrong, because Cupid should never be meta. That's the issue. You made him meta, and now you're going to make him not be meta.
Come on, man. Look at him. He's just a cute little baby.
That's why he's not going to be meta. No, he looks like a baby.
Oh, man.
Babies be meta. So at the moment, Mace is having a couple of decisions to make about what he wants to do next. With Hades being on the board still, it's going to cost him his whole mana pool if he does want to drop some of those big gods that he's got in his inventory.
Yeah, and there's also a possibility here for him to use the Terra. Again, going back to movement and locking players down, this actually stuns an entire row, so he could stun this Athena, and that means the Cupid's going to be able to kill it next turn.
Sure.
And I think that's what he's... this is, I believe, the best play he can make.
Well, at the moment, it's still on Mace's turn. He's still got his mana available to him to choose what he wants to do. And here comes Terra. And there's the stun that just the walls crash and sort of everybody in that whole row.
Anyone in that row gets stunned. Obviously, there's only Athena. And so that Hades can move forward and deal 2 damage. But right now, Mace isn't worried about it. He wants to get as much value out of this Cupid as possible and then basically sacrifice his Cupid to kill the Hades.
Pretty strong Terra. 6/6 for 6 mana. Obviously 7 with Hades now. And then stun a whole row.
Yeah, because we haven't seen too much stun in action, I just kind of want to break it down. We talked about return damage earlier. Units that are stunned do not deal return damage.
Okay.
So stun is very powerful.
And it's just for 1 turn that happens. So they can,
it's just for 1 turn,
take control of your character again the next turn.
So what I'm assuming is going to happen here, either Mace could kill this, or he could actually move his Cupid adjacent to the Athena, kill the Athena,
both.
and then he'll also kill the Hades. But because he already has a range unit out here, I don't think he wants to do that.
Yeah.
And instead, he's just going to basically take a slow style and blink that Hades back.
Which means Hades just had a range to deal damage yet again. And you can see him counting out how far away the Hades can get to dealing range damage to the next units he spawns.
So there's actually a really fun combo right now in Mace's hand that I just want to talk about.
Go for it.
Because I like it. So Rain of Arrows.
3 mana.
Again, going into movement and kind of battle formations in Bologna's thing. You select a 3x3 area, and you deal 2 damage to everything, friendly and enemy, to anything not inside that.
So blink them all together. Potentially.
Yes. So you want to keep your units together. What you'll actually see a lot of is people essentially use Cupid and Rain of Arrows as an execute. So they'll come down, pick a target they want to kill, and then they'll Rain of Arrows, and they'll actually kill their own Cupid with it.
You're basically telling me you send Cupid in as a suicide bomber.
You do.
You do?
Yeah,
Cupid is a suicide bomber in this game?
Yes. When you combine him with
The
Rain of Arrows.
God of Love is a terrorist. Confirmed on Hand of the Gods. Right now.
I never thought about it like that, but yeah, essentially.
I mean, you just told me that's what he did.
Come
and I'm
on,
like,
man.
You sacrifice a child for the greater good.
It's one of my favorite combos in the game.
Because you kill Cupid, that's why.
and kind of because you kill Cupid, because you're right. Cupid should never be meta.
Well, Mr. C4 now has a pretty big hand. You can see the Nemesis on the far left-hand side, thanks to that nice little sword sticking through, a Medusa in hand 2, and an Athena, which we saw played a little bit earlier on. The Medusa will come back into play with a bit of defense with the fact Hades is on the front line, and now... Is that the Decrepit Archer, that one?
Yes, that is a Decrepit Archer on the bottom. You're learning, Graham. Man, you're doing so good right now.
I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah.
I've learned Cupid's a terrorist, and we've learned Hades basically causes more issues for your mana in your deck, so I can run Hades with turrets is what I'm after now.
You can, if you would really like to. Inferno Cannon is a neutral unit.
Now, I know a long time ago, Hand of the Gods used to only let you play one of the gods at a time and only one on the field, but now you can have 2. Would that mean Hades' effect would double stack?
Yes.
On your enemy's god?
Yeah, so they could potentially have to spend 2 more mana to
So there you go. I've got the
play a
deck.
card.
So I'm going to go Blink. I want Bologna, so I can blink the units around
Well,
my
you can't
turrets.
get Hades then.
This is awkward.
So
how am I supposed to get both?
Well, inside each, the best way to break down what unit you're able to use is the Pantheons only have spells and the gods of that pantheon.
Right, okay.
Anything that's not a god is found inside the neutral set.
Is there any way of getting gods from other pantheons into your hand at all?
There's a few options. So Greek, for example, has a card called Sentry Ward, which will steal a card from the opponent's deck. You draw a card from the opponent's deck, and it removes it from your opponent's deck as well. It doesn't just make a copy.
That was the scummiest thing I've ever seen anyone do. Mace to the face basically just pulled that unit forward. Like, it was like a get over here move, like it was a Sylvanas pull basically. Went, come in range of me, and then we're going to suicide our Cupid to make sure we take out Hades as well.
Are you serious?
RNG.
Let me tell you something. Shadow Q and Mace to the face are the luckiest 2 players I've ever witnessed play any game.
I don't know. I've seen Flashpoint play. Sorry, I'm just wasn't too much shots.
I'm not going into the Smite memes. I'll leave that for you and F Dot.
But go on, explain why they're so lucky. Mercury basically gets 3 damage, correct?
Yeah, and so he was able to hit both the 1/1s, and then because he doesn't really want to do damage to the Medusa right now, it's just not really necessary. He got the extra damage onto the Summoning Stone.
Lucky devil indeed. Mr. C4 though has 9 mana to himself now. What's Judgment do?
Judgment, it is a 2-mana card, so it does 2 damage. However, if you have 2 gods on the board, it does 4 damage instead.
Oh, so he needs to play another god first. He could do that with the Athena, though, and dealing 2 damage to one of these archers would be good, and 2 damage to Mercury as well, and hit the Summoning Stone with the Athena potentially.
Yes.
And then use the Judgment.
There's a
possibility.
There's a few options.
I'm not the greatest player, clearly, because I've not played just yet. But looking at that, I'm like, well, that seems like a viable option.
The thing is that you have to calculate against Rome.
Go aggro.
Is the blink.
Oh yeah.
Right. So the movement, you always have to think about the potential for your opponent who's playing Rome to blink his units forward after moving, or to blink your units back if you try and get aggressive. Obviously, they can only do that once a turn, but it can become really scary.
Well, this turn you can see that he did manage to get rid of the Mercury and break the Decrepit Bowman into 2, so he's just 2 1/1 archers now. And with them both being melee range of Athena, if they do attack the Athena, she'll trade out with them.
Yes. So this is actually a pretty good spot just because he has 2 really healthy units on board. Mr. C4, that is, a 5 health and a 7 health unit. We actually might see a card you haven't seen yet, which is Bludgeon, I believe that is there. The second card in his hand.
That's a blink. That's not Bludgeon.
That is a Bludgeon.
So
well, that's a blink. That's a blink. But you're about to see the Bludgeon. So Bludgeon deals 4 damage to all units in a column.
In a column. Oh, not in a row, in a column.
In a column. Up and down.
So not just rows, we have columns too. Do we have diagonals?
No.
Future patches.
We have areas.
Mill decks and diagonals.
You are terrible.
Just let Gandhi know.
You are terrible.
I'm sure he's watching right now. Mill decks and Hades and turrets in the same hand with blinks. That's what's important here.
I'm ignoring you now.
And Krakens. We all need Krakens.
Yeah, so you can see Bludgeon also...
And Terrorist Cupids. They're important too.
Try to explain stuff,
I'm sorry.
Graham.
Go on.
So Bludgeon dealt 4 damage to those 2. In addition to that, it knocks them back, and you just saw the rain of arrows that we talked about earlier. So Mace to the effect selected a 3/3 around his own Summoning Stone and did 2 damage to every other unit on the board.
Still a relatively close game with the Summoning Stones being at 18-21 right now, even though Mr. C4 doesn't have great board control. They are only little mini troops that Mace has with only 2 cards in hand.
Yeah, this is actually a little bit of an interesting spot. You can see Mr. C4, the top right,
Scylla.
has 8 cards in his hand, so he's actually overdrawn Mace by 5 right now. Obviously, he has to worry about fatigue, but his hand is very boisterous right now, and he also has a lot of really strong cards like that Nemesis and Nike as well. Nike is immune to spells.
Okay.
So not the best matchup against Bologna. Actually, very good against Nuwa.
Well, you can see what actually happened there from Zeus. What he did was he used the Zeus buff, Mr. C4, onto Scylla to give her the +1/+1, allowed him to pick up the first kit to make sure Scylla evolves into the full mode that a lot of people will recognize Scylla for.
Yes, and then he used Divine Vengeance as well, which deals 4 damage to all non-gods. And that actually hits your own friendlies as well.
Oh, does it?
It does 4, yeah. So you have to be careful with how you play it.
I don't want that because I want my turrets.
Well, it's a really powerful card, so it's got to have a drawback.
Well, Sylvanas. We've not seen Sylvanas just yet. Does he pull?
He does not pull.
Does he root?
He actually respawns.
What?
He becomes a flower. And through the power of flowers, he comes back to life. Well, it's a sapling, not a flower.
So he self-revives.
Yeah, so, trees, listen, man. Trees come back to life, right? So Sylvanas died.
Sure, Dennis.
It works in the end. So if Sylvanas dies, he has an afterlife effect, and it becomes a sapling, right? The sapling that you traditionally see in Smite. And from there, he regrows into Sylvanas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Now, the sapling has 3 health, and it has to be killed the turn you also kill the Sylvanas. So it's a pretty scary card. He does become exhausted, which I'm sure players have recognized by now.
I'm exhausted.
When units first are played onto the board, they can't move or attack. You got to wait a turn.
Okay.
So you can kill the Sylvanas and not kill his sapling and let him respawn because he won't deal damage that turn. But you do need to be careful.
Just to double check, if Sylvanas becomes a plant because he died, then revives back to Sylvanas, if he dies again, will he become a plant again?
He becomes a plant again.
He's circle of life.
Sylvanas is the circle of life, man.
And then you've got the terrorist on the bench still. That's what Mace of the Face has right now. He's got the circle of life and the terrorist at the same time.
You
called him the terrorist.
You are breaking it down. He is not going to be able to respawn anymore. You actually saw the Chaos spawn come out, which silenced Sylvanas, and then the card Deicide, which kills an enemy god. So even though Deicide would have killed him and the sapling would have respawned since he's silenced, no longer has his afterlife effect.
Hello? That's Janus.
You want a card? You want a legendary card to talk about him, dude?
Yeah.
All right. Let me break down what Janus does.
Does he one-shot anything across the map because he's OP?
No, we didn't do that.
Does he create a portal and make everyone fall through it so they disappear forever?
I mean, I can answer if you'd like, or you can just keep shooting in the dark there.
Last one. Does he wave out lots of damage and does a weird Kirby thing?
No, he doesn't do that.
Okay.
So Janus, at the start of your draw phase, you reveal the top card of your opponent's deck and your deck. You choose one, it goes to your hand, the other goes to the top of your opponent's deck.
So you can give him your cards, and you could take his cards.
Yes. So
that's why I get Hades in the turrets. I'm a genius.
Yes. So you can use Janus to steal Hades if he stays alive. So, talking about priority targets and decks, just how Guan Yu is someone you really got to take care of. That's the same with Janus here. Janus is someone that Mr. C4 really needs to take out as fast as possible. Otherwise, Mace to the Face is going to be controlling the entire pace of the game, because not only is he going to be able to get the better of the 2 cards, he's also going to know what Mr. C4 has in his hand.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens now then for Mace. We're not going to be able to see the cards, I guess, that are available?
No, that's going to be coming next patch.
Obviously, there's a spectator early on spectator, so we don't have that function available. But let's just imagine that Mace to the Face found a Cupid. And so he's going to draw that.
He could do that.
Hopefully. Who knows?
I mean, we'll know exactly what he did choose. So he did choose the Cupid here, obviously. That
was in the hand already. Don't worry.
I
was baiting
that.
you. I'm sorry.
You baited me.
I'm doing it on purpose now. I'm finding out how much of a community manager you are and how much you know about game. That's what I'm doing.
I know a lot about the game.
You're proving it.
But I was talking to you about Janus, and then you baited me.
So it's 18-21 in favor of Mr. C4 right now, especially with 3 units and 1 additional card in hand. But that Cupid does become a 2-for-1-er. That's the way I'm going to call that now. Every single time.
And this one is a really good target to hit is going to be this Nike, who's immune to spells. And because it doesn't really have a ton of damage on the board right now, he definitely needs to take out that 6/5 body. Because, again, Zeus is just going to be buffing that up with his leader ability.
Jeez, Janus auto attacks OP. 3 damage from range. And he's going to force Nike into the corner. Because I like that code. Because I expect to see Mr. C4 probably just run that into the Cupid to make it a 1-for-1 anyway.
That's exactly what you would have saw. And that's the thing about Bologna's ability is that Mace to the Face is a very versatile player from the games I've watched from him. Sometimes he's using his blink to be incredibly aggressive.
This is going to be aggressive. You ready for this Kraken?
I'm ready for it. Oh, and it's a 4-man. even Mace goes curses. He knew what was about to hit.
Well, they lose Nike for that trade, but it was a great trade overall because Nemesis can come in and make another man down. Janus still standing though, with only 1 health now, as Mr. C4 has to play his last but 1 card. In his hand.
And right now, Mr. C4 only has 5 cards left, so he's really trying to push some damage into the stone. We're likely to see the Kraken used
over and over
every single turn just because it's a guaranteed 2 damage on the summoning stone. And it's basically putting Mace to the Face on the clock to make something happen here.
And this clock means that Mace may have to get aggressive. He's got no cards in hand right now. And he's thinking about removing that minion forward to block Nemesis from getting to the summoning stone. But in doing so, he sets up for a big-time Kraken for Mr. C4.
Yeah, and he's got to be really careful here. He really doesn't want his Janus to be adjacent to the summoning stone. I actually think there's a chance here that well, he has to worry about the archer. There's a chance that he moves the Janus into the bottom left-hand corner.
He got terror.
And then actually blinks something forward. But excuse me, I was actually wrong about what card was on the board there.
Oh, okay.
So what happened there was a Census, which is a neutral card, which when adjacent to a friendly, you get +2 damage.
Gotcha.
And so he was able to, I actually thought that was a different card. So a little bit of a mistake for me there.
Well, Terra is summoned and he's going to smush with the crushing walls there onto the Archer. The Archer now going to be stunned. Can't do any damage this turn as he heads over to Mr. C4, who now finds himself with Beacon of Hope, which is a fantastic card in my eyes.
Yeah.
But can he even use it this turn?
He can, but then he wouldn't be able to kill the Blade Master. Using the Beacon of Hope in this situation is a little bit too risky. Unless he wants to use the Kraken to kill the Giannis. Instead, he's just going to Blade Master here. Yeah, I actually prefer this option here. He also body blocks the Terra from getting to his own stone.
Okay, well, he's going to body block the Terra for the time being, and now the Kraken comes into play again, straight away from Mr. C4.
And the thing about that play, too, is also he reduced the Terra to 4 health, so the Blade Master's return damage will finish off the Terra if Mace to the Face chooses to trade in.
And that's why Macy's trying to look to get around this if possible. He could blink the Terra to a different unit space and try and get some damage onto the Summoning Stone, but the problem he's got is that his Summoning Stone is only at 14 health now, and he's going to be a little bit worried that Mr. C4 can get a lot of free damage off her.
I think at this point, Mace to the Face just wants to take board control.
Okay.
Because Mr. C4 only has 3 cards left.
So he's going for the
So he's
now.
basically going for the, okay, I'm going to wait as long as possible. That's actually a very good card to pull from Beacon of Hope, too.
Because it's spell immune?
Just because it's a 6/5. It's a massive body for 4. I mean,
point.
Nike traditionally is only 6 mana. Or, excuse me, is 6 mana. Beacon of Hope is 4, so we actually got a 2 mana advantage there.
What does Enlist do?
That deals 3 damage and spawns a Venator.
Just like that?
Just like that. Just
Perfect.
exactly what you saw. And Venator is immune to return damage when adjacent to a friendly unit. Unfortunately, Mace doesn't have a friendly unit on the board right now.
Feels, as it stands, that Mace is going to play very defensive and hope for the card burn to come into play for Mr. C4.
Yes.
You can see the top right-hand corner. How many mana he's got, first of all? 3 mana out of 10 as it stands until his next turn. And then next to that is the amount of cards still in his deck to draw.
But the issue is he is on a 6-turn clock because of that Kraken. It's just going to... We're going to see 2 damage into that stone every single turn. You can actually see Mr. C4 here. Instead of using the Kraken to kill the Venator, he's actually just going to use his units to finish off that instead.
I'll hold those cards.
Because he knows the Kraken here is just going to be more impactful onto the stone. He wants to push as much damage on that as possible.
Especially with Nike still on the board, it's creating a lot of issues for Mace to the Face, who could be slipping in game 1 here quite clearly. He's already down to 8, and with a Kraken on, next turn is lethal from Kraken and Blade Master or Nike on its own, and I don't think he's got an answer here, does Mace?
Well, Blade Master heals his stone for 3. So his stone will go to 9 health, and then he can use Rain of Arrows to finish off... Oh, no, actually, spell immunity. I lied. So...
See, I was right.
He's in trouble.
He's in dire straits, but he does have Bellona's ability, which can push one of these back behind the Summoning Stone again. Is it worthwhile Blade Mastering to kill his Blade Master? You can't do that, can you? He's not got enough damage for it.
No, he's going to blink the Nike back.
And take... You can't do anything. Or maybe you can all in this one, I guess.
I mean, he's not going to be able to kill off the Blade Master, but at the very least, Mr. C4 won't have lethal this turn.
Well, next turn he might, because Enyo is available too.
5, 6, 7. Nope, just short.
A flag available, a war flag available to be able to summon units from as well when that comes in. Legendary card. It looks a little bit like Bellona. It's like a twin cousin from another Pantheon.
Yeah, and this is going to be game here. Judgment comes out to kill the Blade Master, and there's just no way to stop this. It's going to be 5 damage, plus 2 more from the Kraken. His stone's going to be at 2 health, and basically Mace to the Face would need to win this turn, otherwise Kraken finishes
And an
it
Inferno
off.
Cannon will not
There's your cannon.
do that.
There's your cannon. That's the
Found
cannon
it.
you love.
Well, it's not good enough for Mace to the Face, that's for sure, as he's going to slip in game 1 here and call it a good game, respectively so. And I've got to give credit to Mr. C4 in that first game after the best of 3, because realistically, he was down to 1 card is in his hand.
Yeah.
Sorry, left to draw, I should say, and still won the game. So he played his deck perfectly.
You could see Mace to the Face really trying to stall out with the Bellona and basically force Mr. C4 to run out of cards. And he had the blink to be able to push things back, but having that Blade Master deep into his deck was really helpful to be able to push that 4 damage. And again, it's just the Kraken, right? It's just guaranteed 2 damage every turn onto the stone.
Sure.
And so Mace to the Face was on the clock and just wasn't able to hold out.
Well, now that Mr. C4 won that first game, he can't play the same deck again. So he's going to have to mix things up for game 2 here. Mace can run the same deck if he wants, or could run a different one.
So he can choose to run his Bellona again, but he's not actually.
He's
going to run the New Wall. But Mr. C4 is going to run the Bellona this game.
And do you reckon Mace has done that because he expects to be coming up against Bellona here?
It's a possibility. I think.
I mean, if we say, from what we were talking about earlier on, we've had other guys right now, it's Zeus, Noir, and Bologna are the top 3 pantheons, you'd say, in terms of competitive play, which means that if you know Bologna, if you could be against Noir or Bologna and you pick Noir, she might be good against both. Or survivable.
I mean, Mace to the Face also may want to save his Bologna deck for a potential another game if he's able to win out this one.
Okay.
Bologna does very good against multiple Pantheons, mostly just stalling out.
Okay. Well, we'll see if they can do that in this game too. Best of 3. So if we can see Mr. C4 find one more, he will get a reset in this bracket, and that's going to be the key for him to go again against Mace to the Face, who is the current champion, but that could be ending very, very soon.
We'll see here. I mean, obviously Mr. C4 has to reset the bracket. And Mace to the Face here.
So you have the deck lists from this as well. Did Mr. C4 have any differences up against Mace's version of Bologna here? Or is there any real differences between the two?
I believe Mr. C4 runs a very similar deck. I think he just adds in a Bull Demon King, which does AoE damage.
Oh, okay.
It is a cleave unit. And that can be
cleaves.
And the reason he runs that is because he can use Bologna's leader ability to blink units in and out.
Okay.
He can basically set up his Bull Demon King to
blink in, cleave.
Get cleave, and
smart.
Bull Demon King also only receives return damage from the unit he attacks.
Okay.
So he doesn't receive damage from units that are hit by his cleave attack.
And add on the fact you got Rain of Arrows too, it can cause some issues. But there's my favourite thing in the game so far, the turret.
The Inferno Cannon. Yeah, and Inferno Cannon. So Inferno Cannon can't move. Obviously, it's a cannon.
But you can blink it.
But you can blink it.
Okay, that makes sense.
It also knocks enemies back 1 tile. So it can be pretty impactful there with movement.
When Bologna uses her ability, the blink ability, does she say rally here? Please tell me you've done that, because
I can't recall.
Rally here makes a lot of sense because you do want them to rally there.
Yeah, I know Inyo.
I hope they've not missed it. You missed a mistake.
Inyo does the rally
I expected
here.
more than you, community manager. I expected
don't know.
you to know
I
that.
don't recall all the animations and voice lines off the top of my
If
head.
it doesn't, you need to make sure it's in. Rally here needs to happen every time she blinks.
All right. Well, we're gonna hear it later. We gotta pay attention.
We're already paying attention because at the moment it's up to Mace to the Face this time, who's on the right and his cards are at the top of your screen, whereas Mr. C4 on the left and his cards are on the bottom. And I actually like the card styles are slightly different based off whether they're Pantheon related as well.
Yeah, so Pantheons obviously are the coloring going to be a little bit more focused. You can see kind of the red borders or the red parts under the crescent blade there, just indicative of the Chinese Pantheon. And the neutral set just kind of has a general gray border.
If you're looking at Mr. C4's hand, for example, on the Bologna, the bomb your screen, he's got 2 Pantheon-specific cards in his hand and 3 neutrals. Nice, easy way to tell.
It's pretty easy to figure it out once you have played the game a little bit. And Mace to the Face here is just going to be playing a very backline game. He actually really likes that style with all his Pantheons.
Defense.
He's
a turtler, basically.
He is, and we actually do see different kind of play styles for very similar decks based on who's playing them. And so Mace to the Face is very focused on unit movement when he makes his plays.
Well, right now it's back over to Mr. C4. He has another Inferno Cannon in hand, but necessarily dropping 2 isn't necessarily the wisest when you're against a Noir who could be looking for the amount of Crescent Blade damage that he would like to do if he gets a Guan Yu on the board.
Yeah, and he's debating the Rain of Arrows. We actually saw it highlighted there, which is going to kill the Decrepit Bowman, but obviously spawn the 2 Fractures.
Sure.
And then he needs 2 more damage to finish off the Imperial Guard, which he is going to do by blinking his cannon.
Of course you do. If in doubt, throw the Inferno Cannon in there. And a Mercury too, who's the fastest god alive. Although he did take some damage from the Archer. Pretty realistic so far. As now, the Summoning Stone will take a little bit of poke, and Mace is already down 5 health on his Summoning Stone.
So Mace actually could play as Guan Yu here for 5 mana. He has 2 Crescent Blades in hand, right, which would ping both the...
Mercury?
No, he would actually use it on the 3 health units instead.
Gotcha.
Because that'll reduce them to 2, and then also get 2 procs off of Guan Yu, which will kill the entire board.
Real combo hours here, and there's the first one as he hits the turret, which gets Guan to deal 1 damage to everybody, and then he hits the Archer to deal 1 damage to everybody.
Now, he's also played his Guan Yu early, and so he does have to worry about Mr. C4 having a card that can kill it. Right now, he doesn't. Enlist will deal 3 damage, and that's all he can do, but he actually could look to Mercury here.
And look for the RNG?
He could. Or if he needs 2 damage onto the Guan Yu.
Well, let's see if he can get it, because Mercury spawns in and deals 1 damage randomly 3 times. So we'll find out where the damage is going to go. One, it's the Archer. One to Guan.
Oh.
One to the Summoning Portal. So he won't kill the Guan Yu this turn.
Not just yet. He could play as Mercenary, but it's going to be just out of range too. I think he'll probably just drop a cannon into the back line at this point. He wants to wait on his Mercenary, so it's going to get a much stronger buff.
Okay, well, he's having a long, hard think about this one with most of his abilities now on cooldown. Checking in with Mace to the face on this right-hand side now. He's got a couple of spells in hand here by the looks of it, so he can get some more damage off of Guan Yu if he so chooses, but not necessarily the best spell cards in the world for him.
No, projection, it takes your attack value and then deals that damage. Guan Yu, despite being a 5-drop, only has 2 attacks, so it's really not the best card to combo with. He also will have 6 mana next turn, so Mace to the face could play his Sun Wukong, which I expect is a good chance that'll happen.
Well, while we're waiting for them to take their turns here, I do want to ask you about some of the other Pantheons, because you mentioned them a couple of times, Odin and that, and what they do. What's your favourite card of those Pantheons? Because we're not going to see, I guess, any Ra or Odin by the looks of it today so far.
So far, I don't believe either of these players have a Ra or Odin deck. I believe Mr. C4, we've already seen his Zeus deck.
But what's your favourite card from those Pantheons, I guess is the best thing I'm asking. I want reasons to want to play Odin, and I want reasons to want to play Ra.
Yeah, let me think about this. So first of all, my favorite card is Annihilation in Egypt. Does
it do what its name says?
It annihilates everything. It deals 4 damage to all enemy units, and also just the visuals of it are phenomenal. It's just like, you know what it reminded me of? Did you ever see the trailer for that movie Bombay? Or Pompeii? Not Bombay.
Yeah, Pompeii.
Pompeii? Don't worry about it. Pompeii, right? And it's like the volcano explodes, and you've got these fiery rocks coming down. It's literally that scene on this game board, where there's just, like, the board darkens, and there's just fire rocks coming down, dealing 4 damage to units. I love that card.
Well, we saw Sun Wukong just get played by Mace to the face. We've seen this a couple of times today. When it comes into play, it's got a war cry that lets you turn into either bird, tiger, or ox form that respectively does different things.
Yes, and I think
it's bird, I guess.
believe it's bird. So he wants to basically give extra movement to his Guan Yu. Even though the tiger would have given him 2 attacks. He wants that Guan Yu to stay alive, and so he wants to be able to move it around a lot. But it doesn't look like it's going to stay alive because of the blink ability.
You can move it as far away as you want, Mace to the face, but Mr. C4 will make it explode one more time. Going to take 2 damage in return, though, from being in melee ranges. The Mercury against Guan, obviously both melee, so they will trade out. But now Mace's turn, and he's got the Ho Yi in hand. And with Sun Wukong able to deal 6 damage here, he can easily take out the Mercury or the Decrepit Archer.
He could also use Hebo here to send back the Decrepit Archer. There's kind of 2 styles of play with Hebo. One is use it early, so you can just have
board control.
You have great board control. It's anti-tempo. It stops a lot of stuff coming out, and you can kind of just overrun your opponent by, turn 7+. Or you save it until later in the game when players are dropping their, 6, 7 mana drops. You're sending that back to their hand, and that really slows them down. But it's a little bit of, they sit in your hand for a while and kind of take up card space.
Well, 2 quick spells from Mace to the face, and the board advantage is in his favor now. Sun Wukong still on the defensive, as he summons a little minion with charge quite clearly, with 2/2 just to get some extra damage on, and already Mr. C4 in an awkward position.
And you can see how useful that Eagle form was. The Sun Wukong also gets the buff from it, and so now he's actually placed his units on the corners of the summoning stone. And so it actually blocks not only 2 deploy locations, but those units are going to be right there to take out anything that's spawned right now.
And that's going to force Mr. C4 to look towards the Blade Master, which has charge 2 to try and answer back some of this board control and relieve the pin on these corners, if anything. Does just that and immediately has to reset back to Mace, but Mace is in great position here.
He's in a phenomenal position. He also has Dragon King in hand if he really wants to spend that onto the Blade Master.
Oh, the Dragon King is the 3 damage, right?
Yeah, it's the damage in the row, but I actually didn't notice he had projection in his hand. So not only does he kill the Blade Master, but he also can push 6 damage into the stone as well.
Yeah, Mace to the face really battling back a lot harder in this one as he drops the Ho Yi now with a Sun Wukong on board. And you mentioned this before, you want Ho Yi summoned with an empty board if possible.
Yes, because the Ho Yi is just going to be able to attack the summoning stone, and then it will deal 3 damage to a random adjacent target. And so it's very good. He's very good at kind of, when you have a lead, getting a bigger lead.
The terrorist is back.
Now, this is actually a great counter by Mr. C4. If Ho Yi attacks the stone, it's going to kill the Cupid, which will then kill the Sun Wukong.
I don't think a Ho Yi would really mind about this too much, because, he doesn't care about his front line. He just cares about dealing damage. So as long as the Cupid dies, he's okay with this.
He actually had a mercenary in hand too. So that's actually a much better play just to get the Hou-Yi off.
Very strong from Mr. C4. He's actually got a bit of a better state now. I think we're going to see Mace of the Face just go for play damage?
Yeah, well, he's definitely going to run damage. There actually is, I think there's a chance for lethal here. No, there's not. Not this turn. But he could just push 6 damage straight into the stone, get it down to 7. He actually could get lethal here. So Imperial Archer deals 1 random damage, and he has enough mana to use Dragon King as well.
He's going to get lucky.
He would literally have to have the Imperial Archer hit a 1 in 3. So he's got a 1 in 3 chance here on lethal if he wants to make that move.
Hebo's going to come out, reset Cupid, but the Heart Bomb is still on the Sun Wukong. Will Sun Wukong... No, that's not going to do anything?
No, don't worry about it.
Oh, that's the...
Just don't worry about it.
That's the early beta.
That's the early beta.
Okay, we'll let that one slide for now, but Heart Bomb's not going to do anything, but it does put Mr. C4 in an awkward spot now with the Hebo coming out, resetting the Cupid one more time, and at only 7 health remaining, Mr. C4 is in trouble.
Perfect draw, though. He actually drew a Terra here, and so he's going to use Bellona's leader ability to blink the Baboon, and then use Terra to stun all 3 of those
What's
units.
the Baboon do?
The Baboon is a 3/7 range unit with Guard. And so Guard is... Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. Guard,
I can see a little chain attached to the summoning stone.
Basically, it means you cannot attack the summoning stone, right? You have... Guard units, you have to kill them before you can attack your opponent's summoning stone, but it only works when they are adjacent.
Okay, Terrace is back, but what he didn't do there was actually look to blink that Baboon into this little stun combo that was out from Terra. He didn't have enough mana, I guess, to be able to do that. So instead, he manages to get the Cupid out for defense instead, Mr. C4. And now he's over to Mace of the Face with 2 stunned gods and a Baboon. What else is he going to play?
I mean, he still has the same play, Imperial Archer, Dragon King. But now it's even less of a chance to happen because there's an extra unit on the board.
I believe in the heart of the cards.
He could probably save it. He doesn't really have to rely on RNG. All he needs is 1 more additional damage on a Mr. C4's stone or an Ao Kuang draw, which is going to increase the spell damage of Dragon King by 1. So he can just hold out here. He doesn't have to do it.
With 12 cards still in his deck to draw as well, he's got plenty of time to think about this, so he will just drop the Archer. And there is the damage. He's looking for the kill. Is he going to get it? Oh, he did it! RNG comes to the rescue.
I told you. Mace
They are the luckiest 2, you said.
Is unbelievably lucky.
So that was a what? 1 in 3 shot?
1 in 3, yeah, because it killed the Cupid as well.
33% chance.
Yeah, he had a 33% chance for lethal there. I think he would have won already. The stone would have only been down to 1 health regardless.
Well, technically now with it being tied at 1-1, he's got a 50% chance on paper for going to DreamHack off this next game against Mr. C4.
Yeah, if Mr. C4 is able to win this final game, he's going to be resetting the bracket, and we're going to go to a second set just like the Europeans went to. If Mace to the Face wins, it's going to be a closeout, and that'll be it, and it'll be Mace to the Face going to DreamHack.
Well, I'll see if Mace can make it there in this next set. And obviously, with the New War deck winning there, there's no New War available this time round for Mace to the Face, so he's going to have to go for the Bellona against... It's a mirror match now in reverse.
Yeah, so Mace to the Face had a potential here to play his Zeus deck. We actually haven't really seen... I'm trying to remember because we played the earlier games the other day.
Mace has only played...
He didn't really play a lot of his Zeus.
Okay, I was going to say, he's only seen his Bellona and his New War so far, so we'll see how this one goes. Because it's a reverse mirror match, which means the decks are very, very similar between what they've both been playing against each other anyway, but it's just in reverse.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the game's still in closed beta, so there's not a ton of variance in the decks right now. There's some small differences, again, kind of focused on that play style, where if you want to be more aggressive or a defensive player like, say, Mace to the Face.
Sure. Well, into game we go. We're going to start things off very, very quickly on turn 2 for Mace to the Face here, 2 mana in hand. And you can also see that Mr. C4 starts off with a mana potion, which is if you're second on the list, you get a free
if you're not the first to act, you get that mana potion. So it's a little bit of keeping you as equal as possible in the competitive nature of card games.
Yeah,
that's basically what it is. Card games kind of need mechanics like that.
Archer dropped down by Mace, and it's over to Mr. C4, whose cards are at the top of your screen, and his summoning stone is on the right-hand side if you're going to be rooting for the New War player. If you are a scumbag Bellona player, you're definitely rooting for Mace to the Face.
Hey, you're a scumbag mill player.
There's no mill in the game, so I'm not.
You would be.
But it's not in the game.
And a scumbag aggro player.
No, that's aggro.
I bet you he would
Nothing else
probably.
to-
I bet
to
you
it.
he plays control in card games.
He'd play aggro
I
and
don't
then
know about
whine
that.
about it when he lost. That's what happened. 2 damage on to the Summoning Stone early on from Mace is putting pressure onto Mr. C4 early, and that's what you want to do against Noir. You don't want it to sit there and get the card generation going for itself and find the right cards to just get the full combo of effects from all the archers and the spells.
Yeah, and you can already see the Crescent Blades are going to be coming out, and there's actually a fair amount of low mana spells. This was actually a beautiful turn for Mr. C4. He was able to use his Mana Potion, which also procs the Imperial Archer shot. And
it does?
Yep, and then he used a Crescent Blade to get another shot, and then the Rushing Thunder did 1 damage to everything, and then he got a 3rd shot.
Wow.
That's the thing about Imperial Archer. It can be, it's only a 1/3, but if you let it sit on board and he just keeps getting that free 1 damage,
Every time it adds
sure,
up.
Mr. C4 can't control where the damage goes, but it just adds up and it allows a lot of combo potential because New Wall can generate those Crescent Blades, those 1 damage spells, and then finish off units that maybe they had 1 health and the Archer didn't get the kill. Well, now you can just get the kill, guaranteed.
Well, Mace doesn't have too many options here. There are only 3 cards playable on 5 mana for himself. It's Giannis and List, and I'm not sure what the other one is on the left-hand side.
Decrepit. Decrepit Bowman.
I'm getting that.
Your favorite.
I prefer Giannis, I think.
Giannis is really fun.
Giannis seemed a lot of fun.
It's so fun. It's just... he could look to actually play it here.
It's so lucky when you're watching this card game, you can see exactly what Mr. C4 has in hand, and that Hebo is what's screaming to me right now. Because whatever Mace plays, it could just be taken back into his hand, and he's wasted his whole turn.
Yeah, it's not always the biggest deal. Enlist actually used, again, Imperial Archer. You don't want to let it sit in the board.
So
And then he spawns his own 3/2. Something to mention, spawning versus deploying in our game. So when you use a unit from your hand, you deploy it. So any adjacent spot around your Summoning Stone, you pick what it is. There's certain cards in the game, like Enlist, that spawn units. So you don't actually get to pick
They just
where it
randomly
goes.
appear.
Yeah, it randomly appears in one of your available locations.
Okay.
So it'll still only go around your Summoning Stone or, say, your Inyo flag, but you don't get to choose where it is.
Well, there's that Hebo. Just going to re-put that Veneto back into his hand, and Dishonorable now drawn for Mace of the Face. What does Dishonorable do?
Dishonorable deals 2 damage to any units that are not adjacent to other units. Well, enemy units.
So
excuse me.
alone.
So
It
what?
does 2 damage to units that are alone.
Yes, that are alone. And so, again, going back to the theme about movement inside the Roman Pantheon, you can blink units away and make sure they're not together, use Dishonorable and finish them off.
Well, 6 mana available for Mace of the Face now. He's going to have a little bit of a thing. Didn't drop the Giannis the last time round for himself, and he's got that, what I think is a Blade Master at 7 mana there in his inventory if required.
He does. He also has his Sylvanas, which isn't that bad of a play in this situation since he already knows a Hebo got played, so he only has to worry about 1 more. And also, I mean, there's 17 cards left in Mr. C4's deck, so it's unlikely that he has it.
Okay. Well, find out what his decision will be. Mace will take a long, hard think about this. It is 1-1. Mace to the Face just needs this 1 win to send himself to DreamHack and leave Mr. C4 back in the US for the time being, at least. But the way Mr. C4 has been playing so far, he could be a future star.
Mr. C4 is a very good player. So Mr. C4 has been playing for a while. He was actually a top player a few months ago in our community tournaments, and then he kind of fell off. However, once this DreamHack tournament was announced, he actually started grinding the game a ton and quickly shot back up to the top of the
He
NA
saw
brackets.
Spain and was like, I want a holiday.
I think he's
want
like,
a
I
vacation."
want to go to Spain.
Well, here comes the Archer, and at the same time, that's that Enlist, correct? That was just played there?
I believe so.
Maybe.
Or was that Sagittarius?
It might have been Sagittarius.
I think it was Sagittarius, which spawns a random 3 mana or lower unit.
Okay. Well, it's currently, as it stands, the opportunity here for a little bit more damage if possible. It's 21 to 23 in favor of Mr. C4 in terms of actual Summoner Stone damage as it stands right now. Card draw is even.
And right now, Mace to the Face is just trying to decide if he wants to kill that Hebo or the Departed Warrior in the top, which will draw Mr. C4 a card with his Afterlife effect.
So maybe he does want to just take out the Hebo because it's ranged and he can deal with the melee later on, maybe? That's kind of my thought process right now.
At the same time, though, you're guaranteed to not have return damage when you attack that melee.
That's true.
And so your Archer stays on board for 1 turn. But
So 1 for 1 or a 2 for 1 could have been the option. It's going to be a 1 for 1, but the 2 babies turn up afterwards.
He does use Dishonorable, though. We saw the 3 units adjacent to each other, and so by finishing off that Hebo, he is able to deal 2 damage to the others, but he does leave the 2-1 alive. However, the reason that play worked out so well is because his Decrepit Fractures are 1-1. Either of them can trade into that 2-1 effectively.
You don't remember what Sylvanas does? If he dies, he'll become a sapling, and if the sapling survives, he'll come back alive again.
It's the circle. I'll stop. Circle of Life.
Don't do that again.
I was really close, and then I realized, oh, wait, I can't sing.
But one of the things that Mr. C4 has playing this new war deck is that Ao Kuang, increasing the amount of spell damage he'll do. And this is a very spell combo-orientated deck, so getting that Ao Kuang on the board, going to give him a lot of opportunities here to get some free damage off, potentially to this Sylvanas, or even to the Summoning Stone, or future creeps to come out.
And so he spent 1 mana, or 2 mana, excuse me, to generate a Crescent Blade. I think he's trying to just play a little bit slow. You can see he has that Guan Yu in his hand, like you mentioned, where he just wants to wait for now.
Sure. Get as many mana, because as the turns go on, you generate more mana anyway. You go from 7 to 8 to 9 to 10, and then you just pretty much looking for a one-shot as new life you can. That's the dream, right?
Yeah, the main issue right now is he can't kill that sapling, so he can kill Sylvanas, but the sapling will still be there and respawn Sylvanas. So now Mr. C4 has actually decided to change into a more defensive formation after being aggressive in the early turns.
And talking about Mr. C4 being defensive, Mace should be the one being more aggressive, but you said he likes to play defensive playstyle. Yes. Against the new war, it's not necessarily the best thing.
This is actually, he was one of the first ones that I really saw run this style with Sylvanas. A lot of players would play their Sylvanases, be aggressive with them. He will see that Sylvanas will not move.
It's a threat.
It just won't move. It's so safe in the back of his stone, and it has that respawn ability, and it is ranged, and so it makes it very hard for your opponent to push forward.
And when you think about that, the melee troops want to get in range to hit the Summoning Stone, but then Sylvanas is there to go, well, I'm going to deal 5 damage to you every time.
And you can see what he does here is he'll actually blink units into Sylvanas' range to finish them off. And right there, he's just going to have a board clear, and he has Giannis out. Okay, Mace.
This is trouble for Mr. C4. Got the Rushing Thunder in hand for 2 mana, though, but that's not going to be enough to clear this board out.
Yeah, and so you could see Mace to the face as well, how he positions his units. He knows that Mr. C4 runs Dragon King, as do a lot of players who are playing Noir right now, and so he makes sure not to have all the units on the same row. He does have 1 archer there with the row on Giannis, but that's not that big of a deal.
Can't be helped too much in the grand scheme of things sometimes. Nice little opportunity for Mr. C4 to try and get back into it again. I mean, we know he's got the cards in hand that could make an impact here. He does have some Crescent Blades, as well as the Ao Kuang for the spell damage if he requires. He's not got the perfect combo we'd like, but it's not too far off.
A lot of it's going to be deciding how slow does he want to play. He can play Guan Yu here and basically wipe the board.
All in.
Or he can play Ao Kuang, generate a Crescent Blade, just kill the Giannis is really what he needs to do, and the Decrepit Fractures with a Rushing Thunder.
And obviously he doesn't know what his opposition's got in hand, because if Mace to the face has some removal straight away, Guan Yu could be taken out immediately. So he's got to take that into account when he's thinking about his choices. In my eyes, Mr. C4 going for a full board clear with a Guan Yu would be a good option, just because I can see Mace's cards.
Yeah, and well, he knows Mace has 2 cards, which is obviously very limited, so he may just go, okay, if I clear his board, I'm going to be in a really good spot.
Well, still thinking about it. He's going to drop down just one of those 2
He's playing real slow.
And why do you think he's real slow? Because he just didn't go for the all-in here?
He's so concerned right now about not being able to kill that sapling. But Mace isn't going to move Sylvanas forward and put him into the spot. So I think at this point, Mr. C4 really needs to utilize Guan Yu or Ao Kuang to clear the board and then be able to spawn units and push them forward.
Well, just dropping that 1 troop, Mr. C4 passes the turn back, and Mace immediately brings Sylvanas all the way in to kill that unit in the back line, not even going for the Summoning Stone just yet, because he can rely on his ranged archers to do the work.
I don't know if Mr. C4 thought that one through, to be honest.
Misplay, you reckon?
I think so. I don't think he realized that the Sylvanas would be... He had to have known that the Sylvanas would be able to be blinked, but I guess he didn't want to do it at all.
Wow.
And again there...
Mace with some well-timed aggression.
And also, playing around that Dragon King, he moves his Giannis to the top, not being on the same
as
row
Blade Master.
as the Blade Master.
The Blade Master came into play with 4/7 and also has charge. That's why he attacks straight away. But here we go.
Here it is.
Guan Yu to the rescue.
We're going to see a lot of things happening
Every time
now.
a spell is played, like that spell, Guan Yu will spin his Tallow Assault around and deal an extra 1 damage to everything. And those Crescent Blades in hand that Noir has at the top, the 0 costing mana, they'll also do 1 damage to any creature that he chooses, correct? Any card he chooses?
It deals 1 damage to anything you choose, and then also, or any unit you choose. And he's actually instead trying to proc this Sylvanas instead because he knows he's got to take this out.
But I don't think... Has he got the whole damage in line to be able to kill this sapling?
I think... Did he make a mistake there?
I'm not sure. There's a Crescent Blade in hand still for 0, and he's also got that 2 mana cost on the left. What's that card?
On the top left,
Yeah.
that is Celestial Guard, I believe he's running.
I've got to learn these cards now.
We have some temp art that's identical. I'm not, again, we're still working on it, but I believe that it's a Celestial Guard.
Well, he didn't kill Sylvanas. Sylvanas survived. The sapling lived with 1 health. Blade Master's down to 1 health, however. There's 9 damage on the board here for Mace to the Face. He could just swing for the damage here and still have Mercury for 3 additional later on. Good game being called.
I don't know if it's a good game just yet, but it is a pretty rough spot. The Sylvanas is exhausted right now after it respawned from the sapling.
Oh, you're right.
So it can't attack. But again, 2 damage from that Mercury going in, and again, Mace to the Face. Everyone hates him.
I mean, to be
fair, did you see that RNG?
He only needed 1 of those 3 to hit, and he got the hit.
Well, that's the thing. He got exactly 1 and was able to get the other 2 into the stone.
Well, random blink of Sylvanas to the other squad. Why did he blink Sylvanas there?
Because he has his Mercury on the bottom.
Oh, the lines, okay.
And so he wants to be able to cover multiple options.
Gotcha. The rows, make sure you've not got it same on the row. Right. We saw that a little bit earlier on. Mr. C4 bought himself a window, but he's not managed to close that window just yet to keep Mace to the Face out from looking to end this game as it stands. And now he's going to have to pull the turret out to try and cause some problems, but they do generally have someone in sickness unless you have charge.
I'm trying to figure out what he's going to do here.
What's his play?
He could use his Zhao Kuang and then projection. He also could use Dragon King to essentially just hit that stone and kill the turret if he wants to, just because the range is going to be a little bit more scary, even though the Mercury has 1 more damage as a melee.
There we go.
And so he's just going to do that for now, but he's still in a really bad spot.
So turret is down, 8 damage on the board for Mace to the Face right now, but that 8 damage can't get in range completely. Mercury is melee, and he has to get in range of the Summoning Stone to deal damage to it, so we'll see what happens next. Sylvanas can definitely do, though, 5 damage to the Summoning Stone if he chooses, or take out the turret instead.
So Enlist here deals 3 damage and spawns the Minotaur. That can also be used against Summoning Stones, so he actually could choose here to attack the Summoning Stone instead, and then blink his Mercury in, and get it down to almost no health.
Gonna go with the turret instead.
He'll play it safe.
Bring Mercury in to deal the damage and get some more off of Sylvanas too, who's going to relocate to the corners again. We mentioned this a little bit more about trying to control the space where he can summon from. And now with only 4 health remaining, Mr. C4 is backed in the corner and potentially see Mace to the Face get on a plane to Spain.
Well, he got a Blade Master, so his Summoning Stone will receive 3 health here if he decides to play that, which I'm pretty sure that's all he's going to be able to do.
He can beat Sylvanas down, but he can't kill the sapling again, can he?
No, so he's likely going to Blade Master here and then use projection to kill the Sylvanas. Obviously, it's going to go into the sapling form.
Sure.
But it's better than not. Instead, he plays Zhao Kuang here.
So he's looking for the big time play with the spell damage more than anything else, and actually targeting the archer in the back left. There's only 4 health remaining here. Not sure about this play for Mr. C4.
So he can still use...
I'm learning, so I'm still confused.
He can still use projection here.
Okay. On Sylv.
To kill the Sylvanas. And then he's going to be able to generate... I don't think he's used his ability yet, so he can get a Crescent Blade. Nope.
Oh, that's the worst time. And Blade Master for Mace to the Face in hand with charge. And he's got Blink for the Bologna. All you're going to do is blink that bad boy forward, and that is going to be GG. Mace to the Face is going to beat Mr. C4. 2-1 after Mr. C4 took that first game.
Oh, Mace, the BM, he's just sitting there. Mace to the Face gave him a little bit of a wait.
What was the need for the wait, man?
His BM, man. That's how it happens in card games.
I know. Congratulations to Mace to the Face, who will join Pot Pie from over in Europe to go to DreamHack Valencia now and compete in the semifinals.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Mace to the Face make a splash into here. Obviously, the former Smite Pro. He's going to be traveling to Valencia. He's going to be able to compete in the or immediately jump into the semifinal bracket for the Valencia Open for Hand of the Gods. Again, just a reminder for anyone who's going to be attending DreamHack Valencia.
You can play too.
You can play too. It's going to be open signups as long as you have at least a gamer or LAN pass.
Okay.
That'll be the Thursday of the event. Friday will be the open bracket tournament, and then Saturday will be the finals.
The semis and the finals. If you can get that far, we'll find out. It's been a pleasure though for Hand of the Gods. You said there's a lot of updates this week.
Yes.
Do we know when roughly?
Ideally tomorrow. If
Oh,
not,
really?
Tuesday.
So if you want to go and download this game, as long as you've got Hire's account, you can download Hand of the Gods, play it today if you wanted to, get some free packs and get going and see what it's like.
Yeah, there's also a community Discord that is always very helpful. I believe you can find it on the Hand of the Gods Reddit, kind of the link to that. We have a lot of players who are very helpful about getting new players inside the game. Pot Pie and Bubbles, the players we just saw here. Bubbles specifically actually came in and was aided by them, and over the months he actually became a top player himself.
Well, it's still closed beta and things are still going to be evolving with Hand of the Gods, but make sure if you want to check out the game, go and do so now with all the updates coming through. Could be fancy. For the meantime, that is all we've got in time for today for Hand of the Gods and from Hi-Rez. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all again in the future.